The trees are just beginning to change here as it signals the end of summer in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and fittingly it signals the end of the race weekend here for GRIDLIFE's Elkhart Classic. We are nearing the end of the day. We still got about 2.5 hours worth of action coming up for you this afternoon. Time Attack and GRIDLIFE Touring Cup up next on GRIDLIFE Live. Welcome back to Road America, the National Park of Speed. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Abe Schmunker. Time Attack Group A just about to roll onto the racetrack here in a few moments. And Abe, welcome back this afternoon. We've seen some records fall, and now in probably the peak conditions of the day, I think we're going to see some more.
You know, I think this session might be the best session to go fast.
I think so, too. We've seen times kind of drop throughout the entire weekend, and the weather has gotten nicer and nicer and nicer, and it's not cloudy gray anymore. There's still clouds in the air, but they're nice white fluffy clouds this time, and I can see some blue peeking in off to the north of the racetrack over by Canada Corner. So I think we're in a good spot. The temperature is in the high 60s now. It's a beautiful late summer afternoon, early September, as we get cars rolling down here in turn number 5 at Road America, a 14-turn, 4-mile classic road course built in 1955 in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. It's been our playground this weekend here, Abe, and for the Time Attack drivers, Jackie Ding, his goal in this session, well, he's not going to be running because he broke his arrow. So his goal is to hope that everyone else gets their goal.
Hold the position. So Ryan Matthews is not far behind after that last session. I think only about 3/10. And really, this event is his to win. With Jackie out and Alex Moss kind of hampered by mechanical gearing on his car, it's really just an opportunity to see if you can go and find the time. And
now's the time to do it. This is one of the last opportunities for Time Attack drivers to get it done today. There is a look at the back straightaway heading into Canada Corner. That's the northernmost end of the circuit, and a bunch of elevation change here. Now we're going to climb up the hill now and start Time Attack Group A on Sunday afternoon. You're watching GRIDLIFE Live, and as we climb up onto the front straightaway, speeds climbing for some of these cars well into the 150, 160 mile an hour range before you have to slow it all down for turn number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Cars moving very quick as they make it past start finish. It's really kind of a pleasure to hear these cars scream at full tilt.
Ryan Matthews in the number 121. He was one of the drivers to chase earlier before Jackie Ding eclipsed his street mod time. Vladimir Skirta's got the street record right now at a 2:29.114. That fell this morning. And, of course, Kobe Shield in Street GT at the 2:25.853. He's sitting pretty in that category right now. I don't think he's got too much competition here this weekend.
Yeah, over the lunch break, I saw Kobe packed up, car on the trailer, on his way back to Virginia. So I gave him a call, and kind of what we saw him driving, exiting the track with his flashers on. He said that he broke a tow arm, and it's a 14-hour drive back home, and he has to work tomorrow. So he thought he'd pack up early and get on the way.
Yeah, not a bad idea. So even in the GLTC race, we saw a lot of cars have mechanical issues because of the curbing here. This is something we briefly touched on about how rough it is, but a lot of racetracks will pave their curbing with concrete. What that does is it creates this very uniform structure, right? And depending on the racetrack, those rumble strips may be more or less aggressive. But here, they're mostly made out of asphalt, and it creates a lot of ruts and instabilities on those curbs. And they're still the same size. And the standard FAA curb is between 2 and 5 centimeters drop off from edge to edge on each ripple of the curbing. You get up on those, you're going to break stuff, and we've seen that happen all weekend. I've talked to Andy Smedgard, and he said, yeah, there's no reason to be on them. They're just going to break stuff. Aaron Lichty said that he feels if you stayed off the curbs here this weekend, you'd have a 30% less chance of braking just by staying off the curbs alone.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to think about making sure that you take all the opportunities you have, and if you are running too hard and are up on those curbs, you may kill the rest of your weekend because of a mechanical failure.
And there is time to gain on curbing, as there always is at racetracks, but it's a matter of risk versus reward. Is it really worth it at this track versus something like Mid-Ohio or Autobahn Country Club or Watkins Glen? Think about the bus stop at the Glen and jumping those curbs. That's a great place to do it. Here at this track, I'm not really sure it's going to gain you a whole lot. Maybe a 1/10 of a second on track out, but even then, it's so rough that you're not getting power down very efficiently.
With a 220.205, I think that Ryan Matthews has just taken the lead in the Street Mod group.
No, you think you're correct. He has taken the street modified record from Jackie Ding, and unfortunately for Jackie, he will not get a chance to defend it and go out and beat it again. So put Ryan Matthews to the top of the board, a 2:20.205, the new street mod record here at GRIDLIFE Elkhart Classic. There's Chris Pickford in the Corvette. He's going on by on the front straightaway. James Rauch in the 991. He'll go on through a 2:23.573. Steve Loudon it just ran a 2:32. That might be. I can't remember. Is that Tom in that car, you think?
No, that's probably Steve.
Probably Steve?
I think Tom was running 2:23.
Was he in the 20s? Okay. And Alexander Moss is back out on track. 2:45.245 his first time through. I think he's just getting geared up here. And there is that ZR1 that Loudon is driving, and man, that thing sounds cool. And I only have a split second to look out the window and see it as he comes by the windows here at the media center. That car, it gets up and goes on the straightaways.
Absolutely. Interesting to see the two prime track mod competitors, James Rack and Tom O'Gorman, putting down very similar times, right in the 2:23 range as best for the weekend.
And of course, not quite up to the drivers like Jeremy Swenson, who ran last year a 2:15.623. I remember Jeremy last year said afterwards that he goes, "This is fast enough."
Yeah, I went over to congratulate him after the session. He hopped out of the car and he kind of just he kind of clapped his hands as if he was kind of wiping them off, and he said, "Well, I'm never doing that again."
Because I think some people will forget the speeds that we're doing here, and when you get in a car and you go do it, and you go, okay, that was enough. That was the adrenaline. I think I got it. I got my fill, but I'm not here to wreck race cars.
Well, the best word I can think of to describe the feeling you get after you go out and you do a fast lap like that is just sometimes the track will just give you the willies. Like, just, Nope, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really think about it at the time, and then you finish the lap, you go, oh my goodness. I was about, an inch away from stepping off that curb and into the fence. So there's a risk versus reward for sure. Lots of drivers have run one lap and called it quits. So everyone in the session has completed one lap, and I think there's a few on their second. And if we could get a look at the schedule here in a moment, we'll show you what's coming up for the rest of the day. We've got one more GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race coming up later this afternoon. And that'll be what we end our day on, which is ending with a bang for sure.
Looks like Josh Halka just decided to go fast. He improved the street class time to a 2:27.650.
Yes, 2:27.650.
Which is a 2-second improvement on the record from the previous session.
Oh, okay. So he just went out and just went. So and there's your schedule, of course, time attack and then GLTC. And now the new record for street, Josh Halka's 2:27.650. That is that's how you do it. If you want to break a record, go out there and smash it, right?
Yeah, just turn it up.
None of this halvesies nonsense. There's some a pit notification for Steve Loudon. There's Alex Moss. He might have to kind of work his way around that ZR1. Not too much of an issue.
Moss on a fast lap here. I'm kind of expecting maybe a 2:23. We'll see as he makes his way past start finish.
Across the line. We'll see if he improves. And it is not an improvement. That was sort of a warm-up lap that was just getting rolling. So this will be a flyer this time through. And there are your records now as they stand. Street 2:27.650, Josh Halka. And then the 2:25.853 by Kobe Shield and Street GT. I don't see that really going anywhere. Street Mod, Ryan Matthews, a 2:20.205. That was set this session. Jeremy Swenson's record from last year, 2:15.623 in Track Mod, and then Unlimited. We have a couple Unlimited cars here in some of the other groups. Ryan Dussik's in his 303 Subi is one of those cars, but it's a little ways off from the aero downforce powerhouse that is James
Now,
Houghton's
if you
car.
look on screen here, you can see the really nice spacing and parity between the different classes. We've got just a few seconds gap between the front runners of each of the different classes from 2:27 all the way down to 2:08, with the biggest jump actually between Track Mod and Unlimited. And what's interesting about the separation between those two classes is really the only major difference is one is allowed racing slick like Hoosier tires, and one has to be on a street tire. And in this case, that doesn't account for 7 seconds. So I think that there is pace in the Track Mod class that's not being fully leveraged yet.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Through the kink. You can actually see this is a great angle to show how tight that corner really is. When you think about a car going full throttle through there, this angle shows perfectly how tight that corner is in reality. You don't think it's like that.
Gnarly.
Yeah, it feels like that. When you get out there on track, you go, I cannot believe people go through their full throttle. But they do.
Oh, it's crazy.
I mean, probably not a whole lot of cars in this session, but the GLTC cars will probably be full throttle through there when they're all by themselves. I know Eric Catil, it's just all about working up to that bravery to drive through there. And they have rumble strips out there and track out, but they're also as gnarly as the other ones on track, so you can rip stuff up if you do it wrong.
So we see Nick Gardner making his way out of turn 14 on his way up the hill in his GT500. That car makes a pretty good noise too.
I'm a big fan of Mustangs of all shapes and sizes, but it certainly does. It's like opening the gates to hell as it goes by. It makes a heck of a noise. And through he goes. If you've got any questions for us, let us know. We're keeping an eye on the YouTube chat. And so say hi. We got a group of people watching. We're very close to hitting 5K subscribers here on YouTube. So let's keep those subscriptions coming so you can join us again for Midwest in a couple weeks' time.
Yep, I think Alex Moss is basically at the limit of that car and its current gearing. Another 223 out of him. I don't know if there's anything left.
It doesn't seem like it. He got close. That's closer than that might have been one of his faster laps of the weekend, but I just don't think he's quite got enough to go get up there and chase that record. But it's a gearing problem. That's a hard problem to overcome at a track like this.
Yep, it's straight up horsepower, and the long straights is the faster you go in top speed, the more advantage you have.
Right. So Ryan Dussik's in his unlimited car, 230.075. I feel like he's moved up a group or two since the start of the weekend, so he's up here in Group A now. Nick Coors in the 79 Street Mod. He's in the front-wheel drive category, 232.528, back in 12th overall.
Now, interesting here, if you talk to Charles Miller, he might tell you that he thinks Josh Halka is running away with the championship. And Miller continues to improve throughout the weekend, but, Halka's improving just a little bit faster. So good competition here, but Halka might have it for the weekend.
I want to keep an eye on Vladimir Skurda because he held the record for a session. And he's still out on track right now and still running. He's improving as he goes. So he's still 2 seconds off of the time that Halka ran. But Halka beat his time by 2 seconds. I don't think there's any reason that Skurda couldn't do the same.
2 seconds is a lot on track. My goodness.
It is a lot. And I mean, it's a big place, though. I mean, when you think about how many corners you have, 14 corners, you lose a tenth a corner. That's 1.4 seconds. So you just clean things up a little bit at a time, and you can gain a whole lot here at Road America. So I think there's lessons to be learned every time you go out there, and you get a little bit braver on the brakes and a little bit braver through the kink. And I think that's where drivers are probably gaining time, is in the corners that require that extra little bit of confidence.
Absolutely. And, even simple things like working on gear changes and making sure that they are as fast and as clean as possible make big differences because, if you're too long out of gear, the car will decelerate. And on these big straights, that might be enough to make a huge time gap.
I just heard a car go by and I didn't see it. That's how fast that GT500 just went by. And you just hear it go boom, and it's gone. It's just so cool.
And, from our field of view here in the broadcast booth, we've probably got a field of vision of a couple hundred yards at least, and they move right by.
Yeah, and you don't really hear them until they're on top of you. You just hear the vroom, and then they're gone. So the speeds here at Road America, there's really 3 main high-speed areas. It's down towards the end of the pit lane is pretty much where you're going your maximum velocity for the front straight. And then all the way down to turn 5 on the straightaway we're looking at right now, that's probably about 130, 140 mile an hour under that bridge, topping out at 150 to 160. And then slamming on the binders to turn 5. The next high-speed section's after the kink all the way down to Canada Corner. That's another very high-speed section. And you're braking. You have to kind of round a bend and then slam on the brakes. You're kind of coming out of another left-hand kink before you're straight enough to get on the brakes for Canada Corner.
So a few more drivers still out on track. Moss looking like he's out for another fast lap, continuing to find time in that car where it is because, again, if he's out of gear, he's not going to gain much by trying to go faster on the front and back straights.
And it looks like we'll have checkered on this session here shortly. Not yet, but at 15 minutes into the session, I'd expect one here not too long from now. And then we'll move on to Group B, then Group C. That'll wrap up Time Attack for the weekend. We'll finish off with GLTC Race 4. The cars been dropping like flies, left and right. This place is rough on equipment, rough on cars, rough on brakes.
It's a lot of time at full throttle, especially in these turbo cars. I'm sure you're seeing exhaust gas temperatures going through the roof, and things can break.
So I would like to update some people on some of the GLTC drivers that we didn't have answers for at the end of the previous stream. And we'll go over this again when we get closer to GLTC. But in the accident this morning, it was the two cars that – there wasn't actually an accident between the two cars. It was Jonathan Yu had a self-incident at the exit at Turn 6, as did Scott Bowling. Jonathan Yu and Scott Bowling are done for the weekend with body damage and suspension damage. Cars in the previous race – Tom O'Gorman has a ball joint problem. That's why he came down to pit lane. DJ Alessandrini is done for the weekend. He's got an axle failure and something going wrong in the transmission, so he's out for the weekend. And who else? Andy Smedgard he disappeared off our screen. We didn't know what happened to him. He had studs just break off his hubs, so he attributes that to curb strikes, and he's got that already repaired, so he's ready to go for race number 4, as one does.
You know, if I think we all agree that Andy Smedgard is a fast driver, but I'll be honest to say that he's a faster mechanic.
He is, and also Todd Cayley's got parts and pieces from his garage. Todd, we didn't even note this, but he was missing in race 2 and 3 after something that happened in race 1. So Todd Cayley's been out for most of the weekend. He's back with Andy Smedgard parts for race 4.
That's fantastic.
And hopefully, I think when I was telling Andy about Tom's problem, he goes, "Oh, I got those." And he was looking for him. I'm sure he's going to go help him fix his car up for the final race of the weekend here in just under an hour and a half or so.
Oh, Moss improving to a 2:22.756. Congratulations on that. Still 2.5 seconds away from the leader, though. That is a wide margin.
Yeah, it's not close. I mean, it's still a pretty sizable gap, but that was a faster lap for sure. And I was curious to see if Skirta would go any quicker. He has not this session, so it seems like he's kind of topped out at his 2:29.542.
So if the results stick for the remainder of the weekend, Moss's prediction of a third place being his best possible result is going to be accurate.
Well, I think the guys have been doing this for a while. They seem to know where they're going to slot in, and it's all about, really realizing the potential of the car. If the car's got a potential for third, run it to third. Don't try to go out there and be a hero and end up breaking something.
Well, it is interesting because you get these drivers who know their setups and they know where they're competitive and where they aren't. And, you're kind of getting to the point where the driver ability now is no longer really a factor. It's just, this is what the car can do at this track, and this is what we're going to get.
So finishing up Time Attack Group A here, we still got a little bit of time left here as we have not yet gotten a checkered in the session. But Ryan Matthews again with his 2:20.205 sits at the top of the street mod category. Josh Halka also improved this session, so those two records have fallen this afternoon. There's a beautiful look at the back straightaway here at Road America. They call it the National Park of Speed. It's a lot of trees out there, and I'm glad that they're still out there. This is, in a modern time, if you were to build a racetrack in this spot, they would have bulldozed every single one of them and made a parking lot and threw some lines down and called it a racetrack. But this is a classic place that they left the natural environment intact in those portions. It's so cool.
I wish more places like this existed.
I do too, and I'm a big fan of Watkins Glen, and you know that a lot because I talk about it all the time. But Watkins Glen used to be very similar looking to Road America, but they've removed a lot of trees to make adjustments and improvements to the facility. And this is why, like, a place like this is really a diamond in the rough. I think there's not a lot of tracks that have this kind of thing left. Maybe Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium might be similar to it, but there's not a lot.
Yeah, it's just a scenic place. There's lots and lots of elevation. There's good places to explore on foot, and if you want to take a break from driving, you can do some disc golf in the afternoon. They've got I think it's an 18-hole course here in the forest. It's pretty fun to play, and it's just kind of an all-around awesome place to be.
You know what I really need to do is come out here for IndyCar or another series where there's I can come down here for like a week and spend some time at a campsite and get a campfire going with s'mores and or come back next year to GRIDLIFE when the weather's hopefully a little drier. We can do a campfire and s'mores and beers and brats and all the that's the experience that I crave so badly at a track like this. And unfortunately, the weather was not cooperating for that sort of environment this weekend. And Sunday is sort of when everyone's packing up and getting out, so no one will be hanging around a whole lot after.
Yeah,
this.
right.
There's turn 6 under the Corvette Bridge. That bridge has it's changed sponsorships several times over the years, but supposedly that it will always stay the Corvette Bridge from here on out. But you can look back in the 70s and 60s and find that same bridge there the way it's always been, which is so cool. I mentioned this track has changed very little over the years. The layout is exactly the same, exactly where it has been since 1955. That's a rarity in North American motorsport.
So just a few drivers left on track here. I'm not sure how many drivers are out on a fast lap at the end of this session.
Again, we've seen the most laps we've seen in this session. Alex Moss ran 5. Electron Sport ran 5 as well. Nick Gardner ran 4, but everyone else ran 2 or 3, with the exception of Vladimir Skirta, who also ran 5. So you're not really getting a lot of laps because for a lot of these time attack cars, the fastest lap is the first one.
Definitely. And that's really just as temperature builds in the tires, there's an ideal operation range, and it only lasts a little bit. And if you keep running fast, all you're doing is pumping heat into those tires, and eventually they fall off.
And managing heat, we talked about this briefly. Managing exhaust heat, managing braking temperature, that's something to discuss here. We talked about brakes a little bit earlier. This isn't as hard of a track on brakes as you'd expect, but you're still on them hard. And I think the difference about this track versus something like Gingerman, where you're on the brakes more, maybe it's you can cool them off better, but I think you're more reliant on them here for safety reasons.
Of course, yeah.
If they go, it's a bad time.
Yeah, running without brakes into turn 1, not a good idea. And general advice to drivers in drivers meetings is, as they make their way up to Canada Corner, just tap the brake with your left foot just to make sure it's there, because it will have been more than a mile since you last used the brakes.
Right. So and the other thing is with the curbs we're talking about, you get a lot of that. What do they call that? Knockback you get with the brake.
Can happen, yeah.
So you see a lot of drivers will, in GLTC especially, watch the brake lights going off into the corners. You'll see them test those brakes about halfway down the straightaway to make sure that they've got pressure. Because when you go to the corner and if your pedal goes to the floor, there's not a lot of places around here that you want to have that happen.
Yeah, never a good thing, but especially at a track like this where the speeds are just so high. Making sure that you're confident with the brakes underneath you is key to having a good race.
And that was my experience this weekend when I was driving Ben Harisco's Miata for the first time, my first track experience ever. My experience was trying to figure out the brakes more than anything. I think it wasn't, I've driven manual cars, but I've never driven a manual car on a racetrack. So I was getting used to the shifting and all that. But the braking and the downshifting is really where I think drivers find speed at a place like this, because you have to be really good at it to not lose time doing it. And I was being very cautious because it wasn't my car. But I think towards the end of the day, I was pushing the braking zones a little bit more, but I still wasn't confident in my ability to slow the car down, and let alone the car's ability. I know the car is good. I'm not confident in me, but if you're questioning yourself and the brakes, you're gonna have a bad time. So make sure your brakes work, make sure that your driver works, and that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like I think cars have received checker here. We're waiting for Group B to release and kind of make their way to the penultimate time attack session. 1 left to go by the end of the day.
Yeah, I think so. We got GLTC up at 3:10, and I think is that not it? I'm not sure if we're continuing. I think the stream ends after GLTC. Do we have another time attack session after that? I think we do. Let me look. After GLTC, no. This is it.
Oh man!
And these are long sessions here, so these will run a little bit longer than the previous ones that we had earlier today.
Well, congratulations to Ryan Matthews for taking the top spot. His first win of the year in GridLife Track Battle.
Well, congratulations to him, and it certainly, he had to work for it. I think Jackie Ding set the target to hit, and then he went out there and broke it. So congratulations to him. That's one heck of a way to do it and a heck of a guy to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. So who else takes top position? Of course, Josh Halka, Kobe Shield, and then in the track mod group, it appears that it's going to either be James Rauch or Tom O'Gorman in Steve Loudon's ZR1. Both running 2:22, 2:23 time slots-ish. So very fast, but just not quite as fast as our street mod competitors for this year. Missing some of our much more regular track mod competitors.
So we'd like to thank our partners here this weekend that have brought this GridLife Live coverage to us. And, of course, GridLife Live is brought to you by Falken, the RT660 tire, peak performance inspired by enthusiasts. And by FCP Euro, every part you buy is guaranteed for life. And by Haltech, unlock the power. And by Staybill, ready, willing, Staybill. And Grid Life Live is brought to you by Mike's Harder. Dude, that's sweet. And by ST Suspensions. We couldn't be here without these guys bringing us on board and helping out, bringing us the live stream coverage. We got more coming this season and hopefully off in the future. So we got big plans for Grid Life coming in the next couple of years. And again, as I mentioned, if you are at home and watching this coverage, you got a car that is even remotely track capable, you should think about bringing it to a Grid Life event near you.
Yep, and we do travel all over the United States. We've got presence just about everywhere. And if you are willing to bring a car to an event, we're willing to show you the ropes. And
again, the beginner sequence here is really phenomenal. You and a buddy have an instructor all to yourselves. You go out there and you lead follow at a very slow pace so that you can learn the track first. You're not just getting dumped out onto a racetrack that you've never been to before. You get to drive out on track behind an instructor. They will point out different things you should pay attention to. They'll show you the line to drive. And then there's a couple classroom sessions where they show you and tell you, what the flags mean, what the proper protocols are, and then they let you loose. And they expect you to run cleanly and to give proper point buys and all that, and it goes very, very well. And I'm pleasantly surprised to say my experience with that was spectacular, and I recommend that everybody give that a try at some point. Even if your car is not 100% track capable, as long as it's a car, I think it's fine. As long as you maybe make sure that your brake fluid is up to snuff for whatever track you're going to. Maybe some pads so you're not beating up your brakes, and make sure that you can drive it home at the end of the weekend. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And you know what? There is something to be said about having cars that are set up to be able to drive to the track, run all weekend, and then drive home. And if you've got confidence in your car mechanically, that's an easy, low-effort way to get into tracking cars. Because owning a pickup truck and a trailer and all of those things, they just add complexity.
They sure do. And it's not even like if you come to HPDE, there is no competition to it. It's just learning how to drive on the racetrack. And there's different levels of it. So there's no expectation that you come out here and run blazing fast lap times. The expectations, you go out there, you enjoy the racetrack, you have fun, and you stay safe. So, there's no goal. You don't have to be a Ayrton Senna or Lewis Hamilton to go out there and have fun. You can be me and go out there and have really low expectations of don't crash this car and have a smile on your face. And I did both those things, and I recommend that everybody at least give it a try it once. Or if you're questioning, go with a buddy and have them show it to you. Also follow Grid Life on Facebook. You can find all the people that are in it and around it and get yourself involved in the Grid Life group for 2021 or even the fall. We still got a couple events left to go.
So for anyone watching, if they're any bit like me, I think the hardest part was getting over the hump of expecting to know people at the events. Sometimes it's difficult to put yourself in a situation where you don't know anyone in this crowd, and you say, well, I'll look silly, or I won't know anyone and I'll be an outcast or whatever. First step is just saying, well, I'm going to go do it anyway, and you'll find that the paddock is super friendly and everyone's willing to help. And part of the responsibility of your instructor, if you are a beginner, is to just help connect you to the rest of the community. And they'll find ways to plug you in and connect you to other drivers who know more or know a lot about your chassis and the setup you could use, and just make you part of the family.
That was my experience in the beginner sessions the other day. Is when we were in the classroom. I was debriefing with my instructor, and I was a little bit worried that maybe I had slightly angered someone that was behind me and didn't give a point by properly. And I had a conversation with the guy. He goes, "Oh no, I was good back there," and we introduced each other. And it's just everyone has such a great attitude about the whole thing, and the beginner session's a great way to meet people because they're all running tracks for the first time, so everyone's kind of in the same boat there, and with wildly different cars, so you get to meet people that have maybe a similar car to yours or something that you've always wanted to have, and it's a great opportunity to talk to them about what owning that and tracking that car is really like. So Group B just about rolling on the racetrack now, and we'll roll for Time Attack long sessions here as they pull out on track.
So we see a request on the chat that we need Grid Life Canada for 2021.
Agreed.
Maybe. I don't think that would be too bad at all.
Oh, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, that would be awesome. Mosport, let's go there.
Let's go to Mosport.
I'm all about that. Or if we could do Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, that'd be even cooler. But
I once had an awesome experience at the Formula One circuit last year. But I lost a vehicle while I was there. Some Canadian decided they needed it more than me, and they stole it.
He probably feels bad about it. He'll apologize.
He might have said sorry. I don't know.
Sorry. Yeah, no, Canada's a cool place, and so is Motorsport. I'm actually I come from Rochester, New York. So it wouldn't be too far of a hike for me. I still want to go to Watkins Glen, so I'm leaning on people heavily to make that happen. But maybe someday that can happen. But it's a track very similar to this in history. Comes from around the same era of racetracks, that early to mid 1950s, and and Sean's giving us funny looks from the next room over. He's having a good time. But yeah, Watkins Glen, Road America, from a very similar time in North American history, and both very important to racing history in this country.
Absolutely. So we've got Time Attack Group B now out on track, completing their warm-up lap. Drew Cleaver out on track here, really pioneering the electric vehicle Time Attack in the Street GT class this year.
We've talked kind of extensively about Drew this weekend and how we're kind of excited for more EVs to join GridLife. So if you've got a Tesla, and you're interested in tracking it, I want to see what these cars can do. Let's bring it out here. Let's party. Let's have an EV class. Like we already have one established. It's just about getting more people to run in it so that it doesn't feel like you're running on your own. So bring your buddies. If you got a Tesla group on Facebook, show them GridLife track battle.
So really interesting here. We were looking for data on the EV cars competing in Time Attack, and right now he's provisionally classed in Street GT because we really weren't sure where the limit of performance was relative to other cars in our conventional classing system. And at the moment, I had thought that he was kind of an overdog at Pikes Peak International in the street class, but you might find that that may be where it belongs, and it just so happens that Pikes Peak was the ideal circumstance to run a car like that.
Well, I think it is because Pikes Peak does not have super long straightaways. It's a very tight circuit. So obviously the weight is going to factor in a lot to that, but it comes into the car's advantages with the acceleration in that car. It's all about the torque in that car. And when you're getting up off of these slow 50-mile-an-hour corners, that car just digs and gets up and goes. So I think it definitely, the weight of it is a problem at a track like that, but I think the power and torque kind of overcame that disadvantage there. Not quite as much this time, though.
Absolutely not. Here, you're just lugging around a 4,000-pound car. It's just a lot.
Up the hill and across the line for the first time. Time's just beginning now as they come on through. So got the clock ticking here. And I want to make a correction. Ben Mish, I'm going to say it wrong again. Ben Mish in the 36. That's how you pronounce that name. Apologize for getting that wrong earlier. Mish as like Michigan. So I'm trying not to, I'm trying really hard to like make my brain not say what I've been saying all weekend. So Ben Mish in that beautiful RX-7. He's out there having a good time.
It might be the most photographed car at GridLife. It is just the prettiest.
It's got a really clean livery on it, and I love how it looks. It's very low slung. It looks like an epic race car, and I've always been a fan of RX-7s. I think they look really cool, especially when they're race carified. And I think Ben's is probably one of my favorites.
It's got that kind of like Japanese touring car vibe to it. It looks very good.
Wasn't there a four-rotor one at Mid-Ohio this year?
There was, and it was lovely.
It was awesome. It sounded so cool, and I want to see that car again. Every time it would fire up in the paddock, I'd just stop and just listen to it.
It made the best noise. We've also had a couple of three-rotor turbo cars show up to some of our events last year, and the rotary-powered cars in Time Attack, they just make the best noises.
I think the more rotors, the better. Let's do 10 rotors. Let's like little mini Doritos, like a little package of Doritos. You open up the hood, and it's 20 of them.
You know, what was it, last year and the year prior, a gentleman by the name of Dwight Kelly had an E46 M3 with the BMW V10 swap.
That's cool.
Which was really cool.
I'm always about something that's non-traditional. Anything V10, V12. I love cars like that. It brings the interest back to me because everybody knows now that like you can make up. You don't have to build a V10 or V12 engine anymore to make power in certain ways. But I still like when manufacturers do it just because it's weird, and I like weird. Weird's fun. It's also expensive and unreliable, but it's cooler. And because I don't own one of those cars, I don't have to maintain it, and I just get to enjoy it.
Well, Scott Giles was saying that a straight-piped Camry V6 engine into an MR2, as an example, makes a beautiful sound.
It does.
And it goes like snot.
Yes. I mean, it makes, 300 horsepower, and they get up and go. Nick Gardner, top of the grid here in track mod in Group B, a 228.322. Jared Garcia, a 232.632 in street mod. Alex Arteyet, third in overall in street GT, 232.664. Ben Mish, Clay Davidson, Mark Brylow, Boyson. Whoop, it's all changing now. Nilesh Patel in the 23 car has just gone 5th quick. Street mod 234.813.
So we see Jeremy Boyson running that C8 Corvette with a 235.723. Very exciting to see multiple competitors this year bringing out a brand new chassis and working to develop that as a platform for racing.
We've discussed in the past, I think it was at Mid-Ohio, the C8 Corvette and how it's still a work in progress, I think, for GM. And I really want to see this car in Z06 and ZR1 form, because the ceiling for that car's performance is so much higher than the C7. But the base C8, compared to a base C7, they're a lot more equal than you would think. But I think the advantage comes when you try to make that into a race car.
Absolutely.
That's where that mid-engine platform is going to pay off.
Last night, hanging out, talking with Jeremy and Graham Gaylord, we were talking about how much tire you can fit in the front of the car. And from the factory, I think it's a 235, which for time attack is extremely narrow. But they were saying that there's a tremendous amount of space underneath the front fenders, and you can do a lot if you want to put tire underneath.
And I think GM built that car that way. I think they realized that, hey, we're gonna build this car. And what's unique about GM with the Corvette vehicle is that they already know what is coming for that car. Where I think when something like the FRS or BRZ got released back in 2013 or 2012, I'm not really sure that the manufacturers planned on making different variants of it like they do with the Corvette, where every time a Corvette comes out, it's going to be the Stingray, the base model. You're going to have the Z51 package and all that. Then you're going to have the Z06, and then you're going to have the ZR1. So they know when they release the car, they design it so that it can be upgraded in the future for those additions.
Well, and I think what we've seen over the past couple of generations is that practically the ideal track car within the Corvette series has been the Grand Sport. You get this dry sub setup, you get NA power, and you get something that's capable of running lap after lap. And that, in terms of going to the track and having a kind of a low effort maintenance, a minimal maintenance event, that's exactly what you want.
If I could have one car in this world, it would be a C7 Grand Sport in Watkins Glen Gray with the blue fender stripes. That's what I want.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, I want that so bad, and I would give anything to have that car.
Well, I'm currently I'm on a Honda Civic Type R kick, so I think the next car added to my own stable will be a Type R.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of cars out there that you put up on a wall when you're a kid, and I'm not necessarily like a Lamborghini Ferrari kind of guy. I want an FRS, which is probably that's the goal. That's the then the reach would be a Grand Sport someday when I'm old, and I can afford something like that. But Nick Gardner still at the top, 228.322. Ben Mish improved on his second lap, 231.790. Clay Davidson, 234.073. Drew Cleaver, a 234.210. I'm not sure that's the fastest he's gone yet this weekend, but he's getting back up there.
So Mark Brylow running decently quick here as well. 2:35 is his best time from this session.
Yeah, 2:35.565. Ben Thorne, 2:35.715. Pretty solid time for his number 66 that he's been covering on YouTube. We'll get into that a little bit since we haven't really talked about him much today. The Gears and Gasoline guys on YouTube. Ben Thorne, one of those gentlemen, and he's built that car sort of what I would consider the right way. He's really put a lot of time and research and development into figuring out what exactly he wants to do, and he's built the car to that specification. And he's got videos on Gears and Gasoline explaining exactly what they did, and they cover their track time as well, which I think is really interesting. So if you're interested in learning more about GridLife Track Battle or about that specific build, you can look at Gears and Gasoline. There's plenty of content there for you to view.
Yeah, Gears and Gasoline has been covering GridLife events since 2017, and they began working with us really kind of early in their own careers as well. They had just they had just started as full-time YouTubers, and I think at the time they only had about 60,000 subs, which to some people seems like a lot, but now I think they're approaching 700,000.
Yeah, it's
been great
insane
to see their growth as well.
And we will show you some Gears and Gasoline content on a break a little bit later. I think we'll have a break between Time Attack and GLTC, so we'll show you that a little bit later. So stay tuned for that. as we wait for Group B to move on to Group C and then on to GLTC.
Now, talking to Ben Thorne, he was saying that he really doesn't expect to be running at the front at a track like this in his NA-powered K swapped EK hatch, but his longtime friend and buddy Mark Brylow would be his rival competition for the weekend. And at the moment, they're only separated by 2 tenths, at least in this session.
Cars cross the line this time. Sam Meslevic in the 625 in street rear-wheel drive comes across the 235.945. Lots of cars in this session. And it's interesting because usually by Sunday afternoon, the fields start to thin out a little bit, but Group B has been packed all weekend long. And there's a look down the back straightaway now into turn 14. Another one of those. That is, I guess that's an FRS at heart. It doesn't really matter what you call it; it's the same thing. Especially once you take away the stock suspension tuning, they are basically the same car. But I think people have allegiances one way or the other. If you're a Toyota guy or a Subaru guy, I think there's probably more Subaru people than there are Toyota people in the motorsport world, at least in North America. But I'm a big fan of of Toyota specifically and the FRS 86 platform. There's Ben Thorne down the backstretch into turn 5. And that car is a rocket ship in a straight line, Abe. It's not slow.
Yeah, just really excited to see drivers going fast on this last session of the day, last session of the weekend, and pulling out all the stops.
And now's about the time to do it. And again, for Group B, this will be the last time they're on track this weekend at Road America. And if you've been to this racetrack, you know how daunting it can look and how fast it looks like it is sometimes. And for drivers, it's all about building up that bravery to run that one quick lap at the end of the day. But at this point, don't do anything silly. You've made it through the entire weekend. Don't put your car off. Don't break anything. You want to get it home at this point. You've made it this far.
Absolutely. So we see Ben Misch making his way around track here. I believe this is turn 14.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool car, very clean and elegant build. That car he really pulled out all the stops.
Onto the front straightaway by the media center, hauling past the line, and that was not an improvement. I think that was kind of getting him geared up for a lap here, so he is on a flyer now as we head down into turn number 1. And if people are interested in hearing more content about Grid Life or about the behind the scenes a little bit, Abe, there is a podcast they can listen to.
I don't recommend people listen to the Slip Angle podcast. I'm a host of the Slip Angle podcast, and we talk about all things grassroots motorsports, right? So Adam and I are heavily involved in the running of the Grid Life series, and but there is a universe outside of Grid Life, and we try to stay connected to that as well. And we're really paying attention to who's doing what at the grassroots motorsports level, and it's kind of a fun place to hang out.
I mean, there's a lot of podcasts that are very pointed at specific subjects all the time, and I think one thing I like about Slip Angle is it's not always that. You'll start off on a topic and kind of work your way into something else and kind of stick there for a little while, and I love listening to it on long car rides, especially driving to the racetrack.
Well, if I tried to, in a nutshell, describe what the show is and what it's about, think about your weekend at the racetrack. How many fun conversations happen after the track goes cold when people are just standing around drinking beers? And, the podcast is a little bit like that. It's like we're trying to have that conversation, and we enjoy it. And Adam and I end up talking, multiple times a day, almost every day, and so sometimes we just decide to record it.
And that's what I like. I like those stories, and there are some drivers and teams that will have stories that are just so interesting to listen to. And I like just listen. Guys like Luke McGrew, I'll sit down and listen to him talk all day long.
I didn't see him running here in race number 3. I have to imagine that. Motor number 5 or motor number 6, whatever it is, it's about ready to go in.
Yeah, I got to talk to him. I haven't really found out. As far as I knew, it was just a coil pack issue, and my understanding was that he'd be ready to roll, but that doesn't seem to be the case, unfortunately. But, we talk about Luke, and Luke's a funny guy. He used to run in Time Attack in his Viper ACR, his Vopper, and
my Vopper.
Yeah, his Vopper. We got a black flag on track now, and I'm not exactly sure where that is coming from.
So Luke last year campaigned kind of at the highest level of the track mod class, set a whole bunch of records and battled between, he and Swenson back and forth all year. And that Viper was, I would speculate to say, was the most reliable car in time attack in North America last year. Hundreds of laps at every event. Just, yeah, you want to ride along? We can do it. And he would just go at speed just about everywhere. Super, super clean driver. I've never seen him, at least in that car, I've never seen him overkirk a corner or go too hard or even go off track. He is dialed always.
You know, funny you say that. I mean, he's run almost a full season of GLTC now, and I also haven't seen him make a mistake. It's been mechanical failures that's been taking him out of stuff. Other than that, I have not seen him lock up a tire. I have not seen him drop a wheel. He is so consistent, and he drives to his limit and stays there, and he can sit on that limit all day long and not falter at all.
I think a role model for good behavior as well. He has a television and his laptop set up in the trailer, and as soon as he gets out of the car after a race or after a session, he takes his aim data logger and he loads it into the computer, and he does data review after every single session, looking to find time to improve.
I think our issue is over at the exit of turn number 1. So we've got a black flag on course for a car that is off over there. And we'll see if we can get over there and have a little look before it's all cleaned up, and we'll move on. But for the time being, you can see the safety trucks attending to it. And turn 1, again, a lot of runoff on exit, but the track funnels back down into turns 2 and 3. So the walls come in from right and left and kind of squeeze you down back to track width by the time you get down to the middle of turn 2. So we sit sort of under a holding period here. And talk a little bit about iRacing. My background is in iRacing broadcasting, and the only driving experience I'd ever had on a racetrack was in iRacing. When I went on the track for the first time, that it's different, but it's very familiar. There was things I learned that didn't really apply, but I think the biggest surprise that I had was I thought I'd have trouble spotting corner stations and having tunnel vision, and I think iRacing sort of taught me how to, at least so I can drive the car, at least so I can focus on everything outside of the car that I need to pay attention to. And I think that was an interesting discovery for me to make. So if you're into sim racing at any level, here's a look at the incident we've got. And it looks like, is there a car pointed? We got one in the gravel trap over there, I think. Oh, is that Ben Thorne? It looks like it might be. It's the Gears and Gasoline car. And he has found his way over to the turn 1 exit.
Well, there's another car in the gravel at the top of your screen here as well. That might be the Orange Crush.
It looks like it might be, but there's 2 cars here over in turn 1. One's in the gravel up against the wall in turn 1. The other is just past it. And I can't tell if Ben pulled that car off or if he slid over here. My guess is he might have gotten on the curbing and overcorrected.
You see some tracks in the grass. I imagine he touched that tire wall.
It doesn't look like he's got any damage on that car, and the tires will absorb low energy impacts very, very well. So if you get into it at a reasonable speed, you're not really going to break a whole lot, hopefully. But I wonder if it's, I guess, possible to break hubs on curbs here as well. That could be a potential.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure, especially on the older stuff, on cars like this that aren't perhaps meant to be driven as fast as they're being driven right now. You might run into mechanical issues on some of those components that you might not expect typical failures.
Right. So this is obviously not fun for any driver, but it looks like we've got cars in one piece, at least visually. I'm sure there might be something underneath that's got to be repaired. And that is, I believe, the Orange Crush car that's over there in the other car in turn number 1. And they're in street mod this weekend. Had just run their fastest lap, a 2:35.702, when they came across the line, got down to turn 1 and got it backed into the gravel trap. And I don't see any damage on that car either. Maybe I guess the gravel's there to slow you down there, Abe. So that's why it's there.
Yep, and especially when the track is dry, the cars will go through that area and hopefully lose a lot of speed. I think when things are wet, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think the gravel does a good job, and I know a lot of drivers will prefer paved runoff to gravel, but paved runoff is only really good if you're sliding sideways. I think if you're going straight on, I'd rather have gravel because it will kind of arrest the car and slow it down in a way that pavement cannot do. So I think there's some drivers that prefer to have asphalt, some prefer to have gravel, some just like grass. But here we've got kind of a combination of all three in one corner.
So just a little bit of a pause here during Group B. I think we're close to the end of the session anyway. I would expect Group C cars to be out on track here in a couple of minutes as these cars get cleaned up.
And we're going to have to recover 2 of these cars and send them back to the paddock area. And hopefully those cars can be easily repaired. And we'll move on to the next event. We'll probably see Ben Thorne back at Gingerman later this season. We've got one more time attack session coming up in just a moment. Then we've got GLTC race number 4, the final race of the weekend at 3:10 p.m., which is in exactly 59 minutes. So don't go too far here before we come back for our final race of the weekend. Then we'll have GRIDLIFE Midwest Festival in October, not too far away. And then the Nola Motorsports Park Bayou Bash for GRIDLIFE Track Battle. That'll be November 7th and 8th, a new event this season. And it'll be round number 6 of the 2020 season for Track Battle. So that is what's coming up here on our schedule the next little bit as we get these cars recovered. I think we're going to take a very short break just to take a breath, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Zenith RT660.
During the period of inactivity, they roost in trees or caves. Some species roost alone, while others form colonies, up to 1 million individuals.
Dude, that's sweet. Dude, that's sweet. Dude, that's sweet.
It's gonna be a long winter. Stable Fuel Stabilizer is specifically formulated to make sure your engines will be ready when it's finally over. Ready, willing, stable.
I'm Matt Williams. I drive a 2007 Honda Fit with GRIDLIFE, specifically in the Sunday Cup class. Spec-wise, the rules are pretty much contained to like intake, exhaust, suspension. And when you only have 3 things to work on, it's actually pretty fun to get carried away on those 3 things. We're all on 200 tread wear tires. The suspension is open. Most of us are running some variant of BCs, whether they've custom valving or direct off the shelf. Some people are out there with just like sport springs, which is also fun because you can just toss it over all the grass and the curbs. It used to have a spec tire, but this year it's been opened up to all 200 tread wears, and so we've been experimenting with all of those. Right now we're on the Falcon, the new Falcon RT660s, and this weekend we're kind of blown away with them. I live real close to the tail of the Dragon, so I was kind of used to driving twisty roads, and I wanted to do more. Found this track community, and while I had done some other instructional type stuff, HPEs, immediately upon attending a GRIDLIFE, I knew like this was my home. So many people are family. It's just the good times that I had at my very first event locked it in. And since then, I've dragged every friend I can. So now when I make the trip, it's more of a caravan, and there's people to travel with in numbers. Specifically what brought me to Mid-Ohio, I love this track. It's one of the prettiest tracks on the schedule. It's also a pro course. It has awesome elevation change, and it was the first 3 day. So like, it's just awesome to finally have a Go Hard Thursday back again. So we can have a nice full week and run laps with our friends. We've had an awesome dry day, rain, and anybody that's ran Mid-Ohio in the rain knows like it has some really wacky rain lines that make it super fun, and people tend to be really well behaved. So that keeps it going. Especially like with all the COVID stuff going on. Some of the social restrictions of the people I don't get to see, it's like these are my family. Losing one event a year hurts because like I want to get to the track and I have to see these people.
Nobody has more fun than the Fitz.
The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenis RT660.
Welcome back to Road America, the National Park of Speed. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Abram Schmucker for GRIDLIFE's Elkhart Classic from Road America. And it's been a beautiful day so far. We've done a lot of time attack running. We've done 2 GLTC races. We've got one more coming up not too far from now at 3:10, so that's about 50 minutes from now. We've got one more time attack session, Group C, to roll, and now cars are rolling out on the racetrack, and it is busy in the pit lane right now, Abe. We've got, 15 or 20 cars that are pulling on right now. Some smoke out of the 211. And that is a little bit concerning, I think. It's enough smoke out of the exhaust that it would bother me, but we'll see if it affects that car.
Yeah, last session of the day for a lot of these people, and I don't think anyone really taking it, not many people after this many sessions will take an opportunity to do some fun runs at the end of the day. Most of these drivers will finish this session, pack up the trailer, and get back on the road because many drivers are making travel distances pretty substantial to come to these events.
If you're watching on Facebook, make sure you drop a like and share with your car buddies. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, if you got a red subscribe button that is begging to be clicked, make sure you click it and join us here on GRIDLIFE for the rest of the season as we head off to our final 2 rounds. A little bit of a correction on our Nola Motorsports Park event. It was originally scheduled for the 7th and the 8th. We've also added Friday the 6th of November to that, so it'll be Friday, November 6th through the 8th for our GRIDLIFE Track Battle Bayou Bash down at Nola Motorsports Park. So mark a calendar 1 day sooner. We'll have a 3-day event down there coming this fall. Cars on track again now, entering the back straightaway. And discussed the width of the track the other day, 32 feet wide, very narrow. There's a lot of tracks in this country. So think about, you want to know about how narrow this track really is. Take Watkins Glen. The top of the hill at Watkins Glen between the Armco and the top of the S's is 38 feet. This track is 6 feet narrower than that. So if you've ever driven up to the top of the hill at the Glen, you'll know how constraining that feels. It's that around the whole place here.
Yeah, very tight. But so far in running in GLTC, we've not really seen too many issues with drivers being compressed out or squeezed, losing overall positions.
Well, I think the starts of the races have been mighty tight. You look at DJ Alessandrini's start yesterday; he was 3 wide. Up against the another competitor and the pit wall on slick tires, and he said, "Yeah, I didn't hit anybody, and so that's why it was cool. If I hit somebody, it wouldn't have been so cool." But I think he realized after that maybe that wasn't the smartest plan of action. But he did gain 11 spots in a lap, so it did help him out. Unfortunately, DJ's weekend is over with a couple broken parts and pieces on his Civic.
Sometimes that's how it goes with racing.
And as you said, cars never fix. It's just currently not broken the other day. So a couple cars have been broken. They should get repaired. Unfortunately, a few crash damage victims for the weekend. Scott Bowling's Cayman, Jonathan Hughes, number 200, and the E46 M3 driven by Ben Harisco. That car is also out after a collision in race number 1 at the exit of the kink. And that's a corner that we were told in the beginner sessions this weekend, Abe, to respect, and that is that kink, a high-speed right-hand corner. And it truly is a kink in the back straightaway, but it's a corner. It is not as a straightaway with a tiny little bend in it. It is enough of a corner that there's a rumble strip on the apex, and if you're not perfect through there, it's going to be a bad time.
Yeah, you definitely see it in the drone shot especially, where cars that are running really fast, it's kind of crazy to think that they might be going flat through that corner because it looks like a substantial turn.
You feel it, and again, there's certain angles that it doesn't feel like that. When you're approaching it on the ground, all of a sudden you realize that all you see is a concrete wall. And when you turn to the right, you make that, it's a pretty hard turn. I was probably only doing it at 80 miles an hour, and it still felt intimidating. So I can't imagine doing it a whole lot faster than that. Cars on track across the line, and in the lap we'll have times scored, and you'll see what we're running here. Max Rooney's out on track in his Civic Si Hatch, the 270 car. That's a fun little car. You'd be mistaken for calling it a fit from a distance, but certainly a unique form of Civic that we don't really see around here a lot in Grid Life.
Not really. I'm not used to seeing that many cars. I don't know. In early 2000s, Civics are just not really like a highly raced car.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you, Eric Cattill's Civic EG is a SI hatchback, but I feel like they're a lot more common in the EG generation than they are the newer ones.
Yeah, definitely.
So everything from like 2000 on, that's a rare find, unfortunately. So you know what I would like to see be popular like 15 years from now is right now the new Toyota Corolla has a hatch version that is real hot looking. And in 15, 20 years, I'll be very disappointed if there's not a GLTC Corolla hatch out there because it is cool looking. And they're not fast, but I've seen people take them on track before.
Well, one of the exciting things I think about GLTC is that the power to weight that's expected, there's just so many cars that are options. And that's not to say that every platform would be competitive, but like there's a lot of choices, and sometimes choices are good.
Choices are great, and you can, whether it's a V8, a 4-cylinder, or a V6, or either, you can pretty much make anything happen in GLTC. Again, it's a time attack style rule set, which basically means that you got tires, brakes, aero, and weight and power that are really the main components of making a fast car. And GLTC is all about manipulating mostly the power and weight and a little bit of the tire to create a competitive racing series with cars that are every shape and size under the sun. And what that makes is this amazing series where you have all this competition, but there has seemed to be, for lack of a better term, a winning formula lately, which has been K-swapping cars. And that's not necessarily winning formula cars from the winning formula shop, but it seems like K-swaps, again, are the inexpensive, good value option for race cars in this category. And there's a big lockup there for, I think that's Clay Davidson.
I think that might be Savannah Little.
Savannah Little in that car. But as I was saying, I think I'd like to see some more variation in engine displacement and size coming into the next couple of years.
Well, I guess it's an interesting example of groupthink, right? Where I think because there are a few examples of successful K-Series swaps cars.
Sure.
Now everyone thinks that that's the prerequisite to run fast.
And maybe
I don't
that's
think
not
that's
true.
true.
Okay. So I know there was one guy that was saying yesterday he wanted to join GLTC. He's got a bunch of 350s laying around. And he said, I want to bring a 350 to GLTC. He goes, how do I make it fast? Well, you do exactly the opposite of what everyone else is doing. Right now, everyone thinks lightweight and high downforce seems to be the way to go. Problem is, there's so many cars that are that formula doing something different, as we saw James Houghton do at COTA, that seems to be a way that you can eclipse everybody and beat everybody. So maybe that's the strategy.
Yeah, it could be, and it's so difficult to follow the same path that everyone else has. And, they've got a year's worth of development time ahead of you. And I think it would be tricky to just kind of expect to build a similar car and jump right to the top. I think if that's what you're looking for, be creative and do something a little bit different, because it might surprise people.
Yeah, I think everyone realized at the beginning, hey, maybe if I put aero on my car, I'll be faster. It's tricky to pass in corners, and that's where wings and splitters and all that give you advantages. So, if you have those advantages in places where you can't use them, are they really that much of an advantage? I'm not convinced that it is. I think you're probably better off being good at the end of the straight into a braking zone. So maybe it's a different strategy. Wilbur Hung in the 103. He is currently the fastest driver on the racetrack. Yo Cutla is second in street with a 2:39.874. Jason Owens in the 10th Gen Civic. He's out there running third overall. He's in street front-wheel drive at 2:41.201. There's the track records. They will be unlikely to fall in this session. But again, Ryan Matthews stealing the street mod victory away from Jackie Ding in the last session, or the final session of the day. So congrats to Ryan Matthews on doing that. A couple other cars on track. Pete Lindbergh in the Spec Fit. He's out there having fun, and he just came across the line of 3:24.12, probably having the time of his life.
So slow.
But it's fun when you
get on a long track.
It is a long track, but when you get 4 or 5 of those cars, we saw that at Gingerman earlier this year and at Autobahn Country Club, you get a group of those Spec Fits, you cannot have more fun for less money.
That's so silly.
I mean,
Spec Fit is just the best.
It is.
I've had the pleasure to drive Matt Williams' Spec Fit on multiple occasions, and it's so fun to be in a car that's slow enough that you're not worried about the dangers of driving on track at all. Your biggest concern is, how do I go faster in this car?
And it's all about carrying momentum, and that's tricky at a place like this. Road America is, I don't really consider it, and maybe Tom O'Gorman will disagree with me. I think we've had this discussion a couple times, and maybe I should listen to him because he knows what he's talking about. But, I don't think this track is a momentum track. This is very much a point-and-shoot course, right? And I think if you can carry momentum, you're going to be faster, just because everyone else isn't really worried about that because they don't think it's a momentum track, because I don't really think it is. But there's this is a challenging track to figure out how to go quick around here, because there's not a lot of high G load corners where you're carrying speed through the middle of turns. It's a lot of braking and acceleration where all your speed is found.
Well, I mean, so when you think about doing fast laps around a track like this, let's say, for example, you do a 2-minute and 30-second lap. Over 4 miles, that gives you an average miles per hour. And if your car is approaching its top speed and there's just no horsepower left to go faster, the only way to get a faster lap time is to increase the average speed. And you do that while spending less time going slow.
Right.
So if you can go through a corner just a bit faster, that's how you bring down that overall lap time.
And so I think the key in that case, in something like a Spec Fit, would be to do the old, as the saying goes, slow in, fast out, where you back off real early and you try to power on through the corner and keep that momentum up as much as you can through the corners.
Well, ideally what you want is fast in, fast out, right?
Well, right.
As little time going slow as possible, because
Yeah.
in a Spec Fit, that is a big horsepower penalty.
Right, and there is the 197 car, and that car is being piloted by the Mechanical Advantage Unlimited guys. They're an unlimited car, 248.867, and heading back to the pit lane here. So that car looks like it should be a whole lot faster than a 248.
It looks like it screams time attack.
Yes.
Those guys, I think, are always working on something, trying to develop, and I imagine they're just shaking down here today.
I would imagine that, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that car in another future Grid Life event doing some pretty unreal lap times around here. There's a look at the beautiful Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin tree line back here through Canada Corner. And someone was asking the other day, why haven't they pushed off the wall in the kink and made that area have more runoff? Well, they don't own the property back there. They can't push it back, so that's going to be like that forever.
Well, that's
okay.
just the way the track is.
And that's okay. I mean, I'm okay with a little bit of the track remaining daunting. I think that's an okay thing. I mean, obviously we want the tracks to be as safe as possible and drivers to be as safe as possible, but I think it's okay to not have all racetracks have infinite runoff everywhere and to keep some level of responsibility in the driver's hands, I think.
Well, and two, I think the intimidation allows drivers to get the experience and sensation of kind of working up to pace on a corner like that, because it's not something you can just jump in and do flat.
Right, and I think also with the walls as close as they are, it makes corner markers a lot easier to spot, and I think there's a lot of waypoints around here that you can use when you drive out there for the first time. You'll notice, okay, there's that tree I'm going to use as a braking point, or that's that corner station is here, and I need to pay attention to this because of this reason. And there's a lot to look at here versus some of the newer tracks. You pave out a parking lot and paint lines on it. It's difficult to get those same sort of markers. Look at this corner. That is the best shot of all weekend. Look at how beautiful that is.
It's pretty.
I want that. I want to live right. I want to build a house on stilts right there, and live with my front door facing my living room window right there. I wouldn't even put a TV in the house. Just want that view all the time.
Just race car noises.
In
your front lawn all day.
Would anybody watching this be upset with that? About race car noises all the time? I wouldn't be. But
this is a fantastic view. Very scenic. It's hillier here in this part of Wisconsin than you'd expect.
Yeah, it's not flat. And you know what the interesting thing is, if you look on how the elevation map of this track is laid out, the elevation is actually very consistent. It's the same rise that you see going down turn 5 and up turn 14. It's the same rise that this track kind of sits on. It's just one big ridge, and the track kind of slopes off of it. So the whole first sector is on top of it, and everything else is on the bottom right of it. It's a very interesting, when you look at it from the sky, it's a little bit easier to get an advantage or get a look at it. So Group C, I think we're about halfway through this session. We're going to have a short break after this session before we get into GLTC, and it will be, we'll roll a gears and gasoline piece right before we get to the end of the day. We'll have our last GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race of the weekend, our fourth and final before we head off to Gingerman Raceway at GRIDLIFE Midwest in October.
Yeah, lots of preparation for that event. Many drivers took this weekend off so that they could get things ready and dialed in for that last event, which is kind of the flagship event on our annual calendar.
And it was originally scheduled to be in June this year, but obviously with everything shifting around, we've moved it off to October to allow more time to get proper protocols in place and hopefully have some restrictions maybe lift or be more clarified and that sort of thing. So we've moved that off to October this year in the hopes that we can run the event closer to normal, which I hope everyone's understanding about. And I think it's going to be a fun weekend regardless. And we'll have all the typical fun and games out there. We'll have the drift cars back out on track again as well. So our new track as well on the schedule, Nola Motorsports Park, the 6th through the 8th of November. I'm hyped for that. That's a new place. We get to go to a new racetrack and kind of return to the South.
And I will probably take the opportunity to venture away from the track and get some gumbo, because I am a sucker for Cajun food.
The only time I've ever been to the South, and it was only for like 2 days, and it was for Road Atlanta last year. That's the only time I've ever been down there. And so to get to go to NOLA and experience that, I'm going to maybe make that a week trip down there like I did this week at Road America. I think the areas that we go to, the areas that GRIDLIFE has events in, are such cool places. Even unassuming places like where South Haven, Michigan is. It's a little town, but there's a lot of cool stuff up there. Lake Michigan's right there as well. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, access to the lake is great. Obviously, in October, it'll be a little bit chillier than you might find it in June, July. But
it's going to be pretty, though. Hopefully we'll have some foliage that has changed color. That'll be nice. Maybe we're past that at that point, you think?
Excellent shot of the paddock there. Just like this facility is just so hard to describe. Not only how big it is, but just how clean and prodigious. Though I mean, it's got presence.
Yes, you know what's nice about this is that the paddock space is all one area. Where my experience with Road Atlanta last year is that there's two paddocks really, and so I was bouncing between them a lot. And here it's all just one row of cars, which makes it a lot easier to get around to the places you need to go to.
And if you do it on foot, it's a long walk.
It is. But you know what's nice about this place? As unlike every other road course I've been to in this country, this has so many ways in and out of the track. There's tunnels and bridges all over the place, and that's not a common theme around racetracks around the country.
Yeah, definitely not. And we see cars making their way through. Where are they?
Turn 1 right there.
It's turn 1? Okay.
And over to turn 2, that I don't really agree is a corner. And then we'll go off to turn 3, a right-hander that's downhill under the Briggs and Stratton Bridge. And then the long run down to turn 5, and this is probably where you're going to experience the highest speed your car is capable of running down the hill.
Yep, very, very fast. Make sure those brakes are there. Brake hard into 5.
There's Dewey DeWitt in his BRZ and getting the most out of it as he comes out of 14 right up against the rumble strips, getting the point by, and up the hill he goes. His best time so far this session, a 2:41.124. We'll see if he can improve on it this time through.
Jason Owens running decently quick at a 2:39.338.
Cross the line. No improvement. That's a 2:41.174. 500ths off of his best. And I think the yellow BRZ, I think, is Jeanette Negri in the street mod rear-wheel drive class at 2:59.342. That's another BRZ. She was at Pikes Peak, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
So she's made the trip over here. Ruccetti comes across the line in street rear-wheel drive, 251, not an improvement on his 243.082. And it looks like we have the Jason Owens machine pulling back out on the racetrack in his 10th gen Civic. There's Dewey DeWitt under the Sargento Bridge. We're the real cheese people, they say. I'm a cheese person. You ever had, I guess you've had them a bunch, the cheese curds around here?
Oh, man. I had cheese curds for lunch. They're the best.
If I want one thing to come back with me to Rochester, New York, it's cheese curds. I can't believe I've never – that can't be a regional thing anymore. It needs to be a thing that everybody has all the time, like chicken wings, you know?
It's weird because it's so Wisconsin, and we historically have run an event at Blackhawk Farms, which is right at the Wisconsin-Illinois line, and they're known for having great cheese curds as well.
Yeah. There's a look, actually. This is where our broadcast compound is, and in the media center right underneath us here in that shot. And I think they're going to land and probably get some batteries in their drone. It's probably what's going to go on down there for a little bit. Great aerial shots. And you know what's so cool about that is I don't think there's anybody that does aerial footage as good as GridLife Live does. And I think Matt and the crew do such an amazing job of covering these racetracks from the sky. And so glad that we get to work with them and they get to show us these places from the air.
And just really living in the drone zone.
The drones, I have a little drone, and it's a little, what do they call it, a unique Mantis Q. And it's not an amazing camera drone, but it's fun to fly. And I just like taking it up and just enjoying an afternoon. I'm going to go, you know what I want to do, Abe? I want to go back home and get a glass of iced tea and hang out in the backyard. That's what I want to do. I have a strong desire to do that right now. You know?
Well, you know what you should do is just set up a chair out here in the grass.
I should, or with a Mike's Harder maybe.
That sounds nice.
That does sound nice. But I'm off to COTA next week for World Challenge, so there's a lot going on. I'm not sure I'll have the opportunity to do any of that, but that's okay. Got plenty of autumn left. There's some Mike's Harder falling from the sky. I'd like to grab one. We need some 3D. Can we do stereoscopic streaming? Is that a thing?
That sounds nice.
Right, you ever had those glasses that you can put on?
Definitely.
And you can watch on your own TV 3D?
That's the next ask for the production crew.
Yeah,
let's
do stereoscopic streaming and do 3D Mike's Harder falling from the sky. That'd be so cool. Bet no one's ever done that before. Probably for good reason. All right, well, we're not quite to checkered yet in this session. Well, when we get to it, it'll be a short break. We'll head to GLTC race number 4. Well, there's transition over to the 500 board.
We got to get creative here, guys.
Where's the lasers at? We're missing the lasers.
I need Larry Chen with a laser.
And Adam Jabay with the lasers and Chris Stewart with the lasers. We had lots of lasers at Colorado, and I'm missing the lasers. Oh, there's some lasers. There's the unicorn shooting across the screen.
Oh, we got Turk there, and that's nice.
Yeah, there we go. Forsberg, Jabay. Oh, man.
So, oh, man.
Yeah, this is the good one.
Thanks to our graphics guys. You keep this very fun.
Yes, they do.
So part of our schedule at Bayou Bash is I think we're going to start competition on Saturday, even though we can do track day things going on Friday. In part, and we're going to start a little bit later on Saturday because we want competition to run into the night, which is always a fun experience.
Yeah, we raced a lot of night at Pikes Peak International a few weeks ago, and I think watching GLTC at night was fun. What some of the drivers didn't realize is when we said racing under the lights, we meant under their own lights, not the track's lights. And I think some drivers figure that out real fast. So hopefully when we have GLTC in the nighttime, they'll remember to put headlights on their cars so they can see where they're going and we can see where they are. That'd be useful.
Probably.
All right, so it seems like the takers have sort of died off here at the end of this session.
Oh, look at that. We're real cheese people here, and that's absolutely true.
Yeah. They got it. They're dragging the transitions around. Love it. Predictions for GLTC race number 4. I would like to have a look here at the race 3 order. And again, Emil, that's the grid order. I want results. Let's see. Race 4. I don't have a race 4 result. I do. Race 3. Okay. So race 3 results. Again, Eric Cattell, Aaron Lichty. Predictions for race 4. My one single prediction is that Aaron Lichty blows the doors off Cattell and gets his first win of the weekend.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the inversion number is 4. And so
I'll put Kerry James, who's new to the series.
But has been running quick.
He's been running great.
2:32, 6:15 is decently quick among that group. And we'll see if drivers 2 and 3 end up battling for a decent period. That may be enough to allow Kerry to stay in position and come away with the checker.
So again, Aaron Lichty, last year when we came here, this was not broadcasted last year. Aaron Lichty won every single race this weekend. It was not a blowout. Like he had to drag race some people around a little bit, but he still won 4 races. He hasn't won 1 yet. And think back, he missed PPIR and he didn't win anything at Mid-Ohio either. This is one of Aaron Lichty's longest, I don't want to call it a losing streak, but a non-winning streak for Aaron Lichty.
I think it says a lot about the intensity and competition in the class, right? I think there is this perception that any person can just build a car and come expect to run at the front. And it takes more than that, right? Like sometimes it's luck, things have to go right, and all of the elements, all the pieces have to be working together perfectly to get podium finishes at GLTC.
Well, and Aaron Lichty had, he had some magic for a little while. He's got 25 wins, something like that in GLTC, in only a 30-something start. So he's won a huge portion of the races that he's run, but it's not a given. The competition's gotten so good, and I think it was a strategical mistake as well.
The elevation of competition around him has risen up to give just a bunch of solid competitors running at the front.
For sure, but you have to remember, too, that there's strategy involved. These are short races, so it's not strategy in terms of fuel mileage or tire strategy. But Aaron Lichty made a crucial mistake earlier this weekend. He started from the back on purpose in race number 1 because of the way the drop races work for the season points. His best finish would have been, or his drop races would have been a 3rd or a 4th. He was going to start 6th on Friday, and he said, I wasn't going to run any better than 3rd or 4th, so I was going to start at the back and just get clear track and run a fast lap to set myself up high for race number 2. Well, we never got a full lap of racing, and while he couldn't have known that, that's a huge risk to take when he otherwise could have finished up inside the top 5. So that strategy call put him in the back for race 2, where he had to drive all the way through, and then he had to finish that drive in race number 3. He got to 2nd, and now the only race that he will be able to win this weekend is the 4th and final race.
Yeah, it's it's what we've seen is how important qualifying and race 1 are, setting yourself up for success for the rest of the weekend. Because if you qualify poorly, you're battling back forever to try and get to the front.
I mean, and we have to talk about Eric Cattell as well. He's won 5 of the last 10 races in GLTC now. He won 3 of 4 at Mid-Ohio a couple months ago. Went to PPIR, was winless there. Car was struggling a little bit at that tiny little racetrack. But then we went off to Road America, and he's won 2 of the 3 so far. Is that right? He's won race 1 and race 3. Yeah, that is correct. So he's won 5 of the last 10 races that we've had. And,
it was
it
Emil Tab that ran 1 race 2?
Yes.
Got it.
So it's Cattell, Tab, and Cattell in that order, and we got the checkered falling now for this session here. So, and maybe it's silly to not pick Cattell for this next race. I mean, he's been fast all weekend. I was just concerned about his pace at the end of the race. It didn't slow down. It's just that Lichty was running so much faster. So I think Cattell's got to be on his game. And if Cattell can get through the couple of drivers in front of him and leave Lichty battling for a couple laps, he might have a chance to win, but he's going to have to be real defensive and get going fast.
We had a chance to talk to Lichty at the end of race 3 as well, and I think he made another strategic error,
yes,
which was kind of dial things back a little bit because he didn't think that he could catch Cattell.
No, he told me after. He goes, yeah, I had backed it down, and he didn't realize that he was going to catch Cattell, and he was going to save his Hoosiers a little bit. And come to find out, well, on the last lap, he was only half a second away. He could have made it there. I think, and I think he thinks that too. So unfortunately, that 2 strategy calls have really cost him race wins this weekend, potentially. You never know what could have been different. But for Lichty, I think the goal today is that the strategy playing is over. Now just go out and beat him.
Yep. It's kind of an interesting example where, if you make a strategic call that drives not putting forth your absolute best effort, sometimes things just go wrong.
That's true, and we also have to factor in, was Catil going as hard as he could? There's no point for him when he looks back and sees Lichty in the mirror, 30 car lengths back. Is he driving as hard as he could? Maybe not. Maybe he thinks that he can manage that gap a little bit. He's got the advantage.
Let's pull up the lap times on the Race Hero website to see if Catil's fastest lap was the last one. I would assume so if you're burning a little bit of fuel, but it'll be interesting to know if Catil picked up the pace as Lichty was challenging.
No, his fastest lap was lap 4 of 7. So actually, his last lap was one of his slower ones. And actually, you can see his pace was actually increasing throughout the race, and then it decreased the last 3 laps. So maybe he was backing it down, or he could have been wearing out the tires just a little bit. But in either sense, I think there's still a lot to be discussed when we come around to the race here in just a little bit. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back for GLTC race number 4 at 3:10, and you'll hear from the Gears and Gasoline guys. We'll be back in a little bit.
So we are finally back here at GRIDLIFE, and it's a good feeling to be here. We're kicking off this year. This is the spring kickoff, and it's starting here at Gingerman, which is kind of like GRIDLIFE's home track. The first competitive event with any car, let alone with the Civic. We're just gonna have a lot of fun. That's what GRIDLIFE's all about. And if the car is competitive, then awesome. But I have absolutely no basis for it could be way off pace, or it could actually be competitive. I have no idea. Street class, which is kind of the entry-level class for street cars, obviously. That's the class that I built this car for. I like having my cars be streetable. Some of these other cars that are here look like they're going to be more competitive. We've got Evos, STIs, but that's okay. We're here to have fun and shake the car down. This is the first real event that the car has gone to, and we'll see what happens. I am quite nervous. I'm going to be slow. I know I'm going to be slow right at the gate. This car is still obviously a very new setup, which means there's a lot of stuff that hasn't really been dialed in. When you mess with everything at once, it's never really a good idea, especially if you're trying to be competitive on track, because there's so many variables that have changed. So if the car doesn't feel right, I won't really be able to target why. So it's always a good idea to kind of do mods one at a time. That way, if something feels different, you'll know exactly what it is. I unfortunately don't get that blessing, and it's also a track that I've only really been to once, actually putting down hot laps. I was here on the road trip with the Tesla, but let's be honest, that was quite a different experience.
Really, really appreciate all you drivers coming. The biggest thing I need all you guys to do, guys, girls, etc., is to stay on the track and not explode your heaps of crap. No blown up cars, no dirt everywhere.
I've been watching some of the other people in this class, and they've been doing a lot of work to their cars in the off-season. We've got Josh Halka with a 425 wheel horsepower Subaru. Charles Miller last year did really well. We followed him in some previous episodes, so he's in this class, and an Evo. There's a bunch of other new people to this class, including myself. And I just hope I can be in like top 5. Overall goal for this event would be to break 140.2, which is the current street front-wheel drive record, which doesn't really mean a lot around here because nobody cares about drivetrain platforms. But because I'm at that disadvantage, that's my goal. So we'll see if I can break that magic 140 number. It's going to be tricky, being that it's a new track and a new car for me, but we're going to give it everything that we've got.
There's a lot of really fast cars in this group.
Yeah.
So please just,
I keep my hand out the window.
Don't drive in the mirror.
Yeah, sure.
Just pay attention to what's coming up
Sure,
behind.
yeah. pogo stick. Rear damping might be a little too soft, because as I go around corners, if it's any bit of bumpiness in the corner, I feel the rear kind of bouncing around like a pogo stick. So I might have to increase some of the damping in the rear, see if that helps. But it is not confidence inspiring whatsoever. So that's not good. I'm glad that this is not a high-speed track. If it was a higher speed track, I'd be even more terrified. Right here is a sketchy spot. This is turn 6. In the brake zone, the car gets really squirrely. I'm glad that I got this session, because otherwise I would have probably wasted a hot lap session. So this is good. I get to mess with the car, figure it out, and go from there. Car is so sketchy to drive. It does not want to go in a straight line. I'm just fighting the steering wheel the whole time, and I don't know why. But I think I'm just gonna have to man up and deal with it to put down a fast lap. I did a 146 in that session. I only got one good flyer lap in, so there's definitely more in it. So that's good. You know, I won't be embarrassingly slow, but I cannot describe to you just how sketchy this thing is to drive. Woo! Dude, this car is a handful. This car is 2 handfuls. It doesn't want to go straight. It's just like, I'm constantly skating on ice through the whole track. I don't know if it's because the car is way faster than it should be, or if there's something wrong with like the alignment or something. So I came to Gingerman a year ago with the B16B, and I did a 153. So I'm already 6 seconds, give or take, 6 seconds faster than the B series. There's potential. I can definitely shave more off. We'll see. The Civic feels super sketch. It still feels super sketch. And normally I'd be like, well, maybe it's just because the car is more than it's meant to have. But Jackie drove it at the last track day, and he was like, this is the scariest thing I've ever driven. So, and it still feels like that. It's if I could describe this, it's like trying to hold like a marble on top of this. Yeah. It's just like keeps, you know, hopping off to the side. Yeah.
Do you have other wheels?
I do.
Like narrow ones?
I have 225 squares.
Try those on the front.
So try to go 225 square all the way around?
Just to see if it helps the stability thing.
I consulted Andy Smedegard, who did the K-swap on the car and has had a hand in every major change that we've done to the Civic this year. He recommended a tire swap, just to get more data.
Take out.
But first, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a me problem. So I asked for help from the most qualified Honda driver that I could think of.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom O'Gorman. I'm a professional race car driver for Honda, 2-time Pirelli World Challenge champion, and I'm sitting in a Honda right now, first laps of the year on a racetrack. So excited, we're going to see how it does.
Yeah, thankfully Tom agreed to drive this this heaping pile.
Well, hang on, twist this.
What?
Twist my arm. You gotta.
Yeah. I got him to drive this.
All right, I guess.
Yeah, he's used to TCR Hondas, but we'll give this one a shot.
Quick.
Yeah. Does it feel okay?
It feels fairly normal. I feel a little bit of that, but I'm just gonna let it go. Honestly, the car feels pretty much exactly the way I would expect it to feel.
Okay, so I just need bigger balls.
And it feels really good. Like there's a little bit of push when you overexert the front end, like suddenly. Like in general, it feels really good. It puts power down well.
So it's probably just that I'm not used to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a well-handling front-wheel drive car is a very acquired sensation, and I would qualify this as like a well-handling front-wheel drive car. I think from what I attempt to do in a good front-wheel drive car is get the nose pointed towards the exit of the corner as early as possible to allow the rear to do more of the work for me and allow the front to do the important things.
I mean, for me, I just feel like I'm fighting the wheel more. You're just smoother. I just need to be smoother. But it seems like it's just me. It's just I'm not used to the car, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, this is double the power what it had before.
It friggin' rips.
Yeah.
Like it's really fast. I would probably start throwing rear ride height at it and just try to start pushing the weight towards the nose, getting the nose working a little bit better in steady state.
Okay.
I mean, but it feels pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it.
Awesome.
During his handful of laps in my Civic, with me weighing him down, Tom was able to turn a 141, some 5 seconds faster than I had managed so far this weekend. But with his approval that the car actually drove well, I had the confidence that I needed to go faster.
Having Tom drive the car was the best thing that could have happened. Driver mod is definitely the most important thing in any car that you're trying to drive on the track, and having Tom drive the car really gave me a lot more confidence to drive the car a lot harder. Having Tom rotate the car a bunch when he was out there really helped me kind of feel where the weight of the car is, so I was able to toss it around a lot easier, and that was definitely the best thing that could have happened. When Tom drove the car, he did a 141 with me in the passenger seat, so there's definitely still more in the car. I might do some setup changes, a little bit of tweaking to see if I can get it under that sub 140. It's looking a little bit unlikely, but I'm still very happy because the car just flies out there. It's absolutely incredible. As you can see, we're obviously sponsored by Falken, and they've just come out with their newest, latest, greatest tire, the RT660. And it's been showing some very promising results in some testing that they've been doing. So this is a 225/45/15. Unfortunately, they don't make my very rare size of a 245/40/15 yet. I think they're going to make some eventually, but we're going to run a 225 square with this setup for now, which honestly might be a good thing because that's going to help the car settle down a little bit more. Because it's a very rowdy setup and I'm not very used to that yet, this might be a great way to transition and get more comfortable with the car before I go to have something with a little bit more rear slide. So this is going to give the car a little bit more understeer being a square setup, but I do think that these tires are stickier than the current tires that are on the car, so I'm going to have more rear grip and maybe the same front grip, even though I'm 20 mil skinnier. We're going to find out. We've got a nice benchmark. I did a 143 on the current setup. We'll see if we can go faster with these. So just rolling around in the paddock, the tires are making like a sticky noise. I don't know if that's from the actual sticker that was on the tires or if the tires are just that sticky, but I can hear it rolling through the paddock. So I think we have an increase in grip, and we're going to find out very shortly if that increase in grip translates to a faster lap time. Man, I can't believe it. I shaved 2 seconds off with a skinnier tire. phenomenal. And my tire pressures weren't even right. I was 32 hot, so I brought that down 5 PSI. I'll have even more grip next session, which means I'm actually close to that 140 mark. All thanks to these freaking tires. Now I know this is like a sponsored thing, you think we're biased, but like for real, this is the hot setup, man. For a 200 treadwear tire, like it's an unbelievable amount of grip. More grip than 245 width in a 225 width, which, man, when they come out with a 245, that's blowing my mind. So you might have noticed I've lost 31 pounds, and that helps me on track. Not gonna lie, that was part of the reason I was convinced to do some weight loss. But it's not enough.
So how much weight are we taking out of this thing, buddy? You're such a goober. How much does that even weigh? 5 pounds?
Listen, every ounce matters.
3/10.
To make sure all my weight reduction wasn't for nothing, I wrangled 2 more expert drivers to help me dissect my laps and data, Andy Smedegaard and Kobe Shield. They were both able to show me where I could clean up my line, compress my braking zones, get on throttle sooner, and generally eclipse the 140 barrier. By the time my second to last session rolled around, both I and the car were ready to go fast.
I tried to push the brake zone in turn 1 a little bit too late, and I just came in a little too hot. Well, you saw what happened. It looks like I ripped off my front lip, a couple bolts there. I think I can bolt that back up. We got 1 shot left, 1 last chance, but it's gonna be hot, so. Everyone else is saying that the morning session is the fastest session, and my tires are like hard to hold my hand against, they're so hot. So I don't know if this last session is gonna be any better, even if I drive better, but we'll give it my best shot. This is the last session. This is the last chance I have to make anything count. My goal for this session is to just be consistent and actually put laps down, because last session I tried to shave off immediately on turn 1 and you know, box the whole session. So I'm gonna try my best to kind of slowly work my way up to it. Hopefully I can do at least, you know, 4 good laps out there, and you know, slowly chip away at each lap. 4th place is the goal, and right now that is a Nismo 350Z. He's at a 140.3. So that's my goal. I gotta shave off 1.4 seconds to get that. Hopefully he doesn't shave off any more time as well. But 1.4 seconds, I think I can do it. And if I can, then that gives us a good solid 4th place, which I would be ecstatic to take home a 4th place on the first competition day. It was a pretty odd experience for everybody involved. Even the safety guys were like, what the heck? What happened was that my exhaust wrapped itself around my lower control arm. They had to cut it off trackside to get the car to move because this was pushed up against the wheel, or I guess it was this way, against the wheel. It stopped the rear wheel from rotating. Crazy. They cut this off the car so that the car would roll because this was actually dug into the tire. And this Falcon tire, it's essentially bulletproof. It still has tire pressure. You can see it like scraped a little bit in there. But all in all, that is a strong sidewall, man. It's stronger than 304 stainless. Wow.
So back in turn 1, that's been a really interesting point for starting.
You think that'll cause a restriction? I don't know. You can't say I didn't try to get that sub 140. I came very close, 1.7 seconds off from breaking under 140. Pretty happy with that considering that I came here with the B series and did a 153, so I shaved off 12 seconds off of that lap time. I think I finished 5th. The final results haven't come through yet, but out of 18, I'm pretty happy with that result, even if it isn't a sub 140. I tried every trick in the book, trying to remove the weight out of the car. I took off probably 30, 40 pounds off the car. Got a lot of advice from other drivers that are much better than myself, and they gave me some tips and pointers on how to drive faster on this track. The biggest difference was probably the change to the Falcon tires. I shaved 2 seconds off right there. Fortunately, in those last couple sessions, I was trying too hard, and the car just started devolving underneath me. So that's more my fault than the car's, and I will definitely get the car fixed up. And this car is only going to get faster.
It's a beautiful early September afternoon here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin at Road America. It's the National Park of Speed and the final race of the weekend for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. Welcome back to the 4-mile, 14-turn behemoth of a road course in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined this time by DJ Alessandrini. And DJ is supposed to be down there on the grid, gearing up and suiting up for his final race of the weekend, but things broke, DJ.
Yeah, it's hard to gear up when your transmission doesn't gear anymore. So.
No. Oh no.
But I'm happy that I got to enjoy some GLTC action in the booth. So thank you for having me up here. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We were kind of starting to fill in on the storyline of what's been happening because it's kind of hard to tell when you're out there fighting. So. Mic closer?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
We'll gotta get you. We'll have E-Boyer crank you up. Is what we'll do.
Okay, gotcha.
we'll have you crank out live. But in the meantime, let's go over some of the things that we want to talk about. Let's go over what happened so far this weekend. Well, the big storyline for me was that Aaron Lichty is the points leader coming into this weekend, and he has not won a race since Autobahn Country Club all the way back in, I think, was it late June or early July? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it was definitely in June. It wasn't in July, but. I mean, Aaron's always impressive. So for him not to be winning races is just a testament to how tough the field is here at Road America. Is my volume fine now, Kyle?
I think you'll be good. We'll get it
They'll
sorted
figure it out.
Yeah, they're smart guys. We're just having a look there at our drone flying guys that they're going to give us some awesome aerial views in a little bit. Other storylines: Eric Cattill's won 2 of the 3 races so far this weekend. He leads the weekend points. Emil Tab, though, has had an excellent weekend. His first win since Blackhawk Farms last year. So he's got himself up running quite well. Louis Chatroop has been charging through the field. Maybe the underdog of the weekend. He's done as impressive of a climb as Aaron Lichty has this weekend. And Kerry James, he's starting on pole. We had a 4-driver invert for this 4th and final race of the weekend. He's new to this field, and he's starting up front.
Yeah, I was racing with Kerry, and he's definitely fast. His car's fast in a straight line, and he's hustling it through the corner. So it'll be interesting how tough James will be to pass. But I mean, you got Ryan Upham right behind him, and Ryan's been really fast all weekend too. So I mean, this whole top 5, top 6, it's just going to be quite the battle to watch there, and looking forward to how it unfolds.
It really is going to be interesting to watch. I think Aaron Lichty is probably the obvious favorite for this race. He chased down Cattill by 3 seconds in the final 2 laps, and that was him backing it down. He thought he didn't want to waste his tires. He didn't know he could get there. He said, I'm going to take it easy. He found himself only a half-second back, come up the hill, and said, man, I should have gone after him.
Yeah, but if Aaron Lichty's taking it easy, how much slower is that? Because Aaron Lichty's he's so fast. So him taking it easy, what is that, like a 10th or 2?
Yeah, I don't know, but let's roll through our starting grid. On the front row, it's going to be Kerry James right alongside Ryan Upham.
Starting on the second row, it's Aaron Lichty on the inside, Eric Cattill on the outside.
Row number 3, Emil Tab in the number 14, Louis Chatroop in the 26. He'll roll off in 6th.
Next row, Justin Kelly, and then Pervez Randilia.
It'll be Rob Manicherry starting in 9th, Woody Hyman in 10th, Vitus Aronowskis in 11th, and Greg Kuhn in 12th in the 222.
Thank you, Kyle, for taking Vitus. We got Jeremy Boysen and Tiffany Kelly in the next row.
Steve Pruden and Jake Jorenstad are 15th and 16th.
Eric Meadows and Bill Griffin are 17th and 18th.
Brandon Puck and Dan Capaldo in the 567. He'll roll off in 20th.
Next up, Quincy Burke and Scott Robinson.
And Andrew Work, Ryan Kristoff, 23rd and 24th. They're in row number 12.
Wesley Penn and a Spec MX-5 driver, Savannah Little in 26th.
And 27th, Brian DeFries and Jeff Preston in 28th.
And then Ben Arich, and then Dusty Michael Vladif in 29th and 30th.
And Jorge Ortiz will roll off in 31st. Eddie Smedgard will be 32nd, Tom O'Gorman 33rd, Felipe Gonzalez 34th, Jake Price in 35th. Do we know if Tomo got his ball bearing sorted out?
Kinda, but it wasn't loose. It just slipped, and they couldn't figure out a solution why it slipped. And it was not ball bearing. It was
or a ball joint.
Ball joint, yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
It's what controls the camber at the top of the control arm, and it slipped for no reason. I mean, he's out there slipping right now, so.
We're going to find out. Andy Smedgard, he had studs break off of his hubs earlier today, and he attributed those to curb strikes.
Yeah, that's never good. I saw the picture of it. I think he was down to 2, so two of the 5. So it's probably a good idea that he came in. My rolling speed through the kink was 118.
Oh my goodness!
So if you lose a tire at 118, 115, somewhere, we're all carrying different speed into the kink. That gets real bad real fast. So it's good that Andy figured out something was wrong and came in and took the chance to figure it out. But I mean, we have 2 races. We got the Smedgard O'Gorman show in the back, and then we have the race in the front. That's going to be a doorbuster as well. I'm glad we're not controlling the cameras, Kyle, because it's going to be tough to keep up with it all.
Well, we've been watching 2 races all weekend with Chatroop and Lichty coming from the back, and we've been watching Cattill and Tab up front, and it's been kind of wild in the mid-pack, too. Justin Kelly and Pervez Randilia, those 2 FRSs have been pretty much right on top of each other all weekend long. As we head into the kink and into the trees, we're going to re-rack them and restack them for our 4th and final race. The next time you'll see this field will be at GRIDLIFE Midwest in just a couple weeks at Gingerman Raceway. But now, up the hill through turn 13, Bill Mitchell Bend, and the final corner, turn number 14. It's a long rise up that crest, and then we're going to probably go 3 wide again on the start because everybody's doing that this week.
Yeah, it's. I feel like I'm a little bit of a bad influence on that. And,
hey, you weren't the only one. There's been others that have been doing it.
We're all just a bunch of animals, and we try to keep it tame enough so we can put the cars on the trailer and take them off, no problem. But
that's good. Well, you got yours on the trailer even with the issue, so at least you can drag it back to Ohio.
It sounded like grenades were popping, but it got up there. It wasn't pretty. It looks like they're getting nice and stacked up here. That beautiful Camaro pace car is going to be pulling off soon, and it's going to be race time. We got 2 Beamers on the front row. That's going to be fun. Ryan's very fast. He's getting real comfortable on this track. And yeah, it's gonna be fun to see how this pops off. Emil's car has been really fast in a straight line this weekend, so he might be the one that makes it 3 wide going into that second row.
Let's keep an eye on it. We know Aaron Lichty is definitely not a driver that will take unnecessary risks, but he's in a great spot to grab 2 positions to get himself in the race lead if he does this right. Up the hill, over the crest. It's the National Park of Speed at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for the final time this weekend. Green flag flies. We're racing at Road America. Nice orderly start, 2 by 2 by 2, 20 rows deep as they head down to turn number 1, pushing and shoving. O'Gorman 3 wide up the middle towards the back.
Yeah, it looks like Emil elected to push, or that was Lichty pushing Emil, I think. It was 2 Miatas pushing each other, so they didn't make it 3 wide. They were trying to work together.
Upham out front. He takes the lead away from Kerry James as they exit turn number 1. So far, so good. Still 3 wide in the middle of the field. Now they've gotten it sorted. 1 car way out wide on the rumble strips as they head to turn number 3.
Catil's under attack going into 3. That's going to affect their exit heading into 5. We might see 3 wide heading down the back straight into 5. It gets very narrow there.
Grab some gears and find some speed. Get in the slipstream of the car in front and ride behind. Upham out front. Kerry James in second. Then it's Catil, Lichty, and I think Tab all in a line as they head down the backstretch towards turn number 5. There's Tomo still 3 wide. Look at this. Double file. There's Catil on the inside, and it looks like, is that Lichty that's gone around him? Yes, it has, as Tab tries to go up the outside of Catil into turn 5.
Now, all weekend, Catil's been struggling at the top end of 5th gear. His car just seems to fall off a cliff. So right there, that's what we saw. We saw Lichty just having a stronger top speed than Eric Catil, but Eric's really fast in the 6, 7, 8 range, which is what we're jumping into right now.
We'll see if Kerry James can play rear gunner for Ryan Upham as they head down through turn number 7. Still double wide midway to the field. Tom O'Gorman way out wide on the rumble strips. He's gotten his way through now, picked up 4 or 5 spots as they rumble down to turn 8. Single filing out as we head into the carousel section here, DJ. This is where you're going to have to balance your race car, and Kerry James definitely holding up Lichty as they head to the carousel.
Right, but I mean, last year we had Lichty passing Eric around the outside. It looks like he's trying to do that this time. He's alongside of him. You run out of exit extremely quickly coming out of the carousel. Now going into the kink, it looks like Kerry James is going to file in, so they're not going too wide in the kink. And now it's up to Aaron Lichty to go get Upham. I don't think Upham's put enough of a gap on him.
We're too wide behind him in the kink. Do they make it out okay? I think they did. That's unbelievable to go through the kink side by side. They have done it. I can't tell who that is. I think it's Woody Hyman and Rob Manicherry, I think, are the 2 cars that did that. As they head down to the Canada corner now, and it's Upham, and the other car in second now is going to be Aaron Lichty, and it's going to be really difficult for Upham to hang on to that spot. Lichty's a rocket ship today.
See a wild Tomo passing through the camera there, or that was a Smedgard. I don't know.
It was
it was a yellow S2000.
Turn 14 for Upham. You see Lichty's right behind Kerry James, Catil, Emil Tab, and there's Louis Chatroup, who's done an incredible job driving through the field as Lichty has done, but I think his ceiling is probably going to be 4th or 5th place if he can chase down Emil Tab. They come up the hill to complete lap number 1. It's going to be Upham by a couple car lengths. Now here comes Lichty right in the tailpipes now as they come across the line. Good look, drivers left into turn number 1. Here they go, side by side.
Ryan covers the inside. You can make it that one defensive move, but I like the outside of 1 because you got all that pavement out there. We'll see if Aaron takes advantage of that.
Oh, he's got him. All the way around the outside, onto the rumble strips, 4 tires off, and he's back on the course. Drag racing down to turn number 3, and it's Lichty versus Upham.
But they're still side by side going into 3. That's going to hog them up a little bit. Ryan deep on the brakes, stays in front of Aaron Lichty. Great job from Ryan Upham there to hold on to that lead, and that impacted Lichty's exit. So now you're going to be seeing Kerry James maybe make an approach toward turn 5.
And they might bring Catil back into the mix as well. There's Pervez Randalia looking left to Woody Hyman as they head down to turn number 5, nose to tail, and they're going to continue that way. And look at the defensive line by Upham trying to hold Lichty behind him. It's going to be very difficult to do that. Pick the middle of the road and keep him back there. Catil going to join the party with the top 3.
Yeah, this fight's bringing 3rd and 4th back into the mix. This is great. Yeah, I mean, Emil's hanging in there as well. And remember that a lot of these drivers like Catil, I think he's maximum rewards weight at this point, so he's 150 pounds heavier than what he should be. Lichty has 50 pounds, right?
I think so, yeah.
Or 75 because he got second.
Yes. So now they're going to head through the carousel again. This is where Lichty seems like he's got an advantage over Upham. He tried to go the long way around last time, and he almost got there. But he's not.
He's trying it again.
I'm not sure that's going to be a way to do it, at least safely, but he's going to tuck in line here. He's got plenty of time. I think he knows he's faster than Upham, so maybe be patient with this and don't force it to happen.
Yeah, I think if I'm Lichty right now, I see, Lichty carrying way more speed into the kink than Upham there. He might be.
Oh, he's there.
He's there. He'll have the inside in the Canada corner.
Oh, but did Upham cover him? Is he going to run nose to tail and no overlap? Lichty backs out. That's a safe move there. I think Lichty knows that making a low percentage move is not the way to win this race. He's got time to play with here. He's hounding Ryan Upham, and he's going to make him make a mistake.
That or Upham, Upham's car's a little heavier. He's going deeper on the brakes than Aaron. And Aaron's car keeps the tires really well. Upham's car might be fast right now, but in 2 or 3 laps, that car might be off pace.
Yeah, here he comes, and the run down the front straight. Upham's going to go defensive. He's going to choose the right side of the track, so he's made his move. He has to stay there now. Lichty struggling up the hill. Here comes Kerry James. He's gone to the left. They're going to battle for second now as they head down the front straight. Catil and Emil Tab going to join the party for second. It's a 4-way fight for P2 as Upham still leads the way down the front stretch.
I'm wondering if Aaron missed a shift or something like that because, look, he's 6-7 car lengths back from Ryan Upham. It's not like he hit the NOS button or something. So mistake from Aaron drops him back to 3rd place as they head into turn 3 here.
5-car breakaway at the front. We'll update you elsewhere. Andy Smedgard up 13 spots. That's pretty unbelievable. Tom O'Gorman, I'm trying to find where he is on the timing and scoring screen, and he is looked like he might have dropped out at the end of the first lap. I have not seen him come back past the start-finish line again, so he might have brought it back to the paddock with potential issues. As you see, Lichty hounding Kerry James down the backstretch. He'll have a look into 5 here on driver's left. Oh, maybe he might go driver's right, actually.
Well, now Emil's looking feisty, too, on Eric there. This is so cool. It's just a pack of 5 cars, and it's just clean, close racing the way it should be. Catil trying to see if there's anything on the outside. Aaron gives him the space on the outside of 6. If Eric can keep along the outside of him going into 6, he'll have the inside on 7. That's a little bit of an advantage.
A couple other battles going on throughout the rest of the field, but our focus is up front right now. Ryan Upham's got about a 5-car length lead over second place Kerry James. Kerry playing rear gunner for the other BMW out front. I don't think those two are necessarily teammates by any stretch, but they're sure acting like it out there, which for Lichty and Catil, the time is running out. We're certainly about halfway through this race, so you better get going when you come back around to turn 14. Take advantage of that straightaway if you're Aaron Lichty. Use that K-Miata power.
Kerry James is just looking so strong right now. He ran the fastest lap of the race last time, and there's a waving yellow.
That could be. I wonder if that is the only car that we're missing on the. Well, we're actually missing a few. Greg Kuhn we're missing in the 222, Tom O'Gorman, and Jeff Preston. So we're missing 3 drivers that did not make it around to the start-finish. And so I'm wondering where on track that car would be. I would have guessed that it's out of turn 14 somewhere because it's got to be in this sector.
Do you think it's that Miata that's sitting on the pit lane? I don't think they'd wave a yellow for that because that's off the surface. Normally a waving yellow means something is happening on the surface of the track. Now, she's kind of lazily waving it, but that might just be because there's no cars nearby.
Oh, that's what it is. And that looks to be...
So it is that car.
Yes. Is that...
is that Jorge?
Nope.
It has hood vents.
Oh, another car off. That's Kerry
that's
James
Kerry
out of
James.
second. And the second place car is in the gravel in turn number 14. Keep it rolling, Kerry. See if you can get out of it. Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. If you stop, you're stuck. He's still moving right now as he tries to...
That looks pretty packed down. I think he'll be okay.
And across the start-finish line,
I wonder what happened.
This time through, he ran wide. Upham, Lichty, Catil is bump drafting with Emil Tab. They're shoving each other down the front straight, and now it's a 4-car breakaway.
Top left, though.
Oh, here he comes. Chatroop was getting hounded by, I think it was Justin Kelly behind him. Rob Manicherry is 8th, Woody Hyman 9th. Kerry James obviously still in the gravel. We'll see if he gets that car out and continues to race.
Lichty just took a huge chunk of inside curbing and allowed him to carry a ton of speed through turn 1. Now he's right on the bumper of Ryan.
And now they come out of turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race down the backstretch into turn 5. Upham has been out front for the entire race so far. That 47 car, that is Jeff Preston. He has been cleared from the pit exit, or pit entrance, I should say. So he is clear. So we will go back green. The question is, did Kerry James get back rolling? I have not seen him come by the start-finish line just yet. And yes, he has come by the line. So he is through.
Okay, so we're staying green.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, good. I'd hate this race to end under yellow because everybody's just doing such a great job. I bet Kerry just dropped some outside tires on the entry.
It's so easy to do. The entry to that corner is curved, and there's a little bit of a rumble strip on the outside, but it's actually past where you start turning in.
Right, that rumble strip just lets you know that you done goofed.
Yeah,
that's all it does.
But if you hit that, you're already off the track at that point.
You're already having a bad time.
So now the question is, can Upham hold back Aaron Lichty? And I wonder if Aaron Lichty's already gotten by him. I think I see a tiny blip in front of that. They're actually looking back beyond. There's a good battle in front of whoever we're looking at as they head under the bridge.
This is such a cool view. Kyle, doesn't it feel like we're watching the iRacing?
It does feel like that, doesn't it?
Blimp cam right now. Emil Tab ran the fastest lap of the race so far. So he might be catching those guys, or he just had the cleanest traffic.
Actually, I think the fast lap was actually run by Kerry James on lap number 2. So Emil Tab's run the fast lap last time by.
Yeah.
So he's certainly going to be a threat as they make their way down towards Canada Corner. And we'll see them pop out of here in just a moment. But Upham has been in control of this race, trying to keep the points leader, Aaron Lichty, behind him. That is a tall task, and he's done it so far. Catil's now second.
Okay.
And Catil has moved into position to grab the lead away, and he's won 2 of the 3 races so far this week, and maybe he'll get a third.
That must have happened between 6 and the kink. I wonder if he got him on the kink.
4-car breakaway as we come up the hill. 10 minutes into this race as we come out of 14 here, DJ.
He got a little choked up behind Ryan. He was carrying a good amount of speed, but had to choke up. Ryan looking a little slow on the straight, and Eric's been slow all weekend. But he's getting that Emil draft, the Emil Tab bump draft.
White flag is in the air. We did get the white flag. This is the final lap of the race. 4 cars tucked nicely side by side into turn number 1. Eric side by side for third, and Lichty on the outside of Upham. He's going to try to cross him over on corner exit, and a slip by Upham, and Lichty goes way wide under the rumble strip. And they're side by side as they come down through turn 2. Drag racing nose to nose.
They got the flying V going into turn 3 here.
It's like a formation flight as they come through the GLTC Thunderbirds as they come out of turn 3 and head down the backstretch under the Sargento Bridge. Upham still out front as they head down the backstretch.
You got to get smoke flares to put on their wingtips.
I'm not sure if we need any more smoke or any more action out there. I'm already at capacity as we head down to 5. There's Pervez Randalia right in front of, I think, it was that Smedgard. Maybe, but here into turn 5 is where we're going to see our last, maybe best passing opportunity. And Lichty unable to get to the 13 of Ryan Upham.
In all that, Eric Catil drops back to 4th place. And just a huge shuffle up front.
Climbing up the hill into turn 6. We're running out of opportunities. If Lichty needs to force it, he's going to have to do it down in Canada Corner. That would be my guess. Emil Tab's got Catil all over his back bumper as they head through 7. Look at the run that Lichty's got. He's going to have a huge run into 8. I don't think he's going to be close enough to pass, though.
Yeah, that's a tough place to pass. There's not a whole lot of grip offline on the brakes there.
Into turn 8, and then now aiming for the carousel. This is going to be a high-speed corner where Lichty's going to use that advantage, that downforce that he has to set up a pass on Upham heading down into turn number 8. 3 car lengths apart, then 4 back to Emil Tab in third, and then another car length back to Eric Catil. I think 3rd and 4th are out of it. It's going to be a battle between the front 2, M3 versus MX5.
Upham has been due for a GLTC win. He's always been real fast. I think at Autobahn he had one of the fastest laps of the weekend. He just ended up getting it toward the end of the weekend.
And he was so close to winning a race at Autobahn Country Club. Came back in second. Actually, it was Aaron Lichty that ended up eclipsing him for that race win. Into Canada Corner. They're nose to tail as they enter the turn. Can Lichty power back by him, or will it be a race win for Ryan Upham? It would be his first ever GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race victory. Turn 14. The camera will catch him as they come up over the Bill Mitchell bend. We're waiting for them. There they are. There is Upham right in front of Lichty.
He's right there.
Winningest driver in GLTC, chasing one who's never won a race before.
Just has to execute this last corner.
The run up the hill. M3 versus MX5. Find the power. Lichty, driver's right. Up the hill.
Man, he's going to get it.
Drag race to the checkered flag.
The pull from Lichty. He's going to win this race on the last corner.
Oh, by a car length. And for third, it was a photo finish and give it to Catil by 60 thousandths of a second over Emil Tab. Justin Kelly fifth.
I could feel Aaron Lichty's excitement from the booth. I saw his fist shaking. I got chills. That was awesome.
Oh, you have to feel for Ryan Upham, though. So close, but so far.
He will get a win.
He will
get one. It's just not today.
But not today.
Yes.
A 10th, .147 was the winning differential between Aaron Lichty and Ryan Upham. Not quite enough, and it was all down to that turn 14, DJ. You know how you have to set it up just right to get that run onto the front straight.
I know entirely. I'm speculating, which is a dangerous thing to do in the booth, but I'm speculating that Ryan was overly cautious in that corner. He probably thought he had it and just overslowed a little bit, and Aaron took advantage of it.
I mean, you have to be perfect. With Aaron Lichty behind you, he's won well over 20 races in GLTC. He's no stranger to victory lane, and Upham, I think once he gets that win, it's going to help the confidence quite a bit, DJ. But to win a race like this at this track, Emil Tab was thrilled in the pits when I talked to him. It was his first win since Blackhawk Farms last year. He was stoked because this was a really competitive field, and Upham, a great drive, just not enough. And for Aaron Lichty, he led, I believe, only one lap, and that was the last one.
The one that mattered.
They only gave you the checkered on the last lap there.
Right. That was an awesome race. I'm sure there was awesome racing going everywhere through the race. But I mean, that lead pack, like the lead swapped. Eric moved all over the place. He ended up third. Like, yeah, that was just great racing up front, and just. They were just a class of the field. Nobody was even near them toward the end there.
We know that there's always great racing through the entire field, so if you want to watch from onboard cameras, a lot of drivers post their videos on YouTube, so make sure you check out GRIDLIFE Touring Cup on YouTube later tonight. We want to thank our partners that have come on board and helped us bring this coverage to you. And, of course, GRIDLIFE Live is sponsored by Falken, the RT660 tire, peak performance inspired by enthusiasts, and by FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. And by Haltech. Unlock the power. GRIDLIFE Live is sponsored by Staybill. Ready, willing, Staybill. And GRIDLIFE Live is sponsored by Mike's Harder. Dude, that's sweet. And by ST Suspensions. Thanks so much to our partners here at GRIDLIFE Live for bringing us this coverage this weekend. We've got more coming in 2020, and this is what's coming up. GRIDLIFE Midwest 2020, that'll be October 2nd and 3rd. Out at Gingerman Raceway in South Haven, Michigan. It'll be GLTC, Time Attack Drift, and Night Shift Drift. That's what's coming up in just, I don't know, a little under a month. And then we've got our season, I guess it's the start of the 2021 season, our Nola Motorsport Park GRIDLIFE Track Battle Bayou Bash. That'll be November 6th through 8th down in New Orleans. So
that'll be fun just because it's in a different part of the country, so there's going to be a lot of first-time drivers in there that, have raced in other series, and it's just gonna be. It's always cool when you just get a little bit of a mix of new blood. And just talk about sponsors real quick. I love Mike's Harder's.
All right, shameless. You're like, dude, that's sweet.
It's so silly, but like it's effective. I like it. And I just noticed that FCP Euro's symbol is a brake rotor.
Yeah.
With the cat, I never.
It's pretty cool.
It was just a symbol to me before.
We also some other people to thank that have been behind the scenes all weekend. Matt Johnston and crew that have been behind the scenes with Specialty Field Productions. They've been crushing it with the drone coverage, and thank you so much to Magic Matt and all the guys that are working the cameras and flying the drones. And of course, thanks to Abe Schmucker for joining me this weekend, and thanks to you DJ. I know it didn't go quite the way you wanted this weekend. I think you'd rather be out there racing, but
of course,
glad to have you up here.
Racing's tough. Things break, and it doesn't always go your way, but when it does, it makes up for the times it doesn't.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us this weekend here at Road America, the National Park of Speed. We'll see you next time here on GRIDLIFE Live. My name's Kyle Heyer with DJ Alessandrini. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and we'll see you at Midwest in October.